All right, all right, all right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna, and I pray everybody is doing well. Let me just say, man, it has been interesting. I know that's my favorite word. So, welcome, good night, everyone. This is live. So, you don't know, I'm going to open up in a minute after I share a few things, and then we can go from there. So, for those who've joined me along with this open book discussion, your comments, I read all of them. Some of them have me laughing. I appreciate the feedback, because oftentimes, what's going on, Winter? We come in and we're having this discussion. We are collectively experiencing something, but where do we go to exchange ideas, have conversations about what we're taking in? And so this is why this has been a beautiful community building exercise, right? Shout out to everybody who's just joined us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so this we are for those who are wondering, we're currently reading Sadella's book, which is Madabuka, okay, Bob Marley, my son, Sadella Marley Booker, and then Rita's book is behind me on the shelf, y'all. I'm not going to dishevel things. But Rita's book, somebody asked me, Abuna, when you getting back to Rita? I had to take a pause because I kind of wanted to show the intergenerational traumas and experiences that went from one generation to the next. And now that we see that when we come to Rita's generation, which is kind of sandwiched in the middle, he's only experiencing, even Bob, something that was passed down to them. Right. And so even in our own personal journeys, I think it's important to look to the generations before us. And I know that, especially Caribbean culture and even older melanated culture, sometimes our grandparents, great grandparents would hide the realities of their life. Like they'll have whole children that didn't nobody know about. You know what I mean? They'll have whole experiences no one knew about. But because they experienced them, we as their descendants may pick these things up, have no clue why we're experiencing what we're experiencing. I'm talking from my own personal family that I learned some interesting things. Okay. So I know that this is very important, and I think it's important, and this is why I'm taking the time to share with you. Before I jump in, oh, greetings, everybody. I love how we are all being nice in the chat. I wanted to just to bring us up to speed, right? Since the last live, Norval. I know you guys have left a lot of comments about Norval, but Norval is a character. Like when Norval died in last episode, I'm like, no more Norval, because this guy was really energetic. You know what I mean? He was really creative with the things that he was into. But like I said before, from what I've learned of his father, Norval was also to a degree fatherless. His mother was widowed early, and there's something in there that he didn't get all that he needed. Somewhere, so pretty much. Norval, I'm not trying to make an excuse for him because dude was definitely off the train, but something about his brother getting something that he didn't get, that I think that made his behavior just so careless in certain aspects, like not securing himself all throughout the time that he could have until a very old age, and then he's still up to his tips and tricks. And I think that Bob is equally Norval as he is Sadella. He's quarterly Omariah as he is his grandmother. What was his grandmother's name again? Alberta. Right? We are all of the components of those who came before us, and sometimes one part comes out more than others. Right? Stephanie says, not an excuse to abandon the child. No, absolutely not. Not an excuse. But I found that in doing my own family history, when I find something that's very uncomfortable, which I have found, like, how could someone do this? You know what I mean? How could, and you're thinking from today, present day, like what are they thinking? And we're thinking they necessarily had all of the things at their disposal that we do today. And I'm just saying, it sometimes it's hard to grapple with the past and the things that people were willing to do. Our grandparents, some of them left their children, went to whole different countries, never came back. I mean, I'm not making an excuse. Like Norval sent his peoples to Kingston, right? I found in my own family history, after much searching, most I rested, my grandmother, she went to Panama and just never came back for my grandfather. You know what I mean? He's the age that Norval is, 2 years old. So, when you look back, there's a lot of this type of stuff in the storylines. And I think it's important, especially Caribbean history, that oftentimes it's there for us to look. That's how I was able to find Norval, his death certificate, marriage certificate. There's a lot of information out there today that wasn't accessible when I started 20 years ago, 15 years ago, right? And I think it's a beautiful opportunity if we have names and dates and we have question marks within our culture, we should avail ourselves of these services. And I'm not talking about DNA swabs, I'm talking about paper trails, right? I'm talking about paper trails. You miss Norval? See, y'all miss Norval. Norval is the dude that y'all love to hate. But Norval is very alive and well, or he was very alive and well in Bob, right? I think he was very alive and well in Bob. And I'm going to read that right now. I'm going to read that right now. And someone told me last time to put the I'm listening to y'all feedback, right? To put the comments that I'm responding to on the screen. And so Monique says, I commend Rita and Sedella because I too have experienced grandparents hiding things. Yeah, they did in their youth. Absolutely. They just popped up old and ready. Let me tell you something, B. And you're like, wait a minute, what happened when you was 20? You know what I mean? And so a lot of the things are lost because maybe that was the time that they grew a lot of us in darkness and shrouded in secrecy. And then things happen to their grandchildren, great grandchildren. But not know what happened to this family. Oh, you don't? Oh, for real, you don't? You don't know what happened? All right. Okay. Uh He did give Nesta 2 cents. Did you see the 2 red cents? He gave him, I mean, at the end, I really think he didn't have any money. But another question I had yesterday, I think I was discussing this portion. It's like, wait a minute. If Norval was so on the outs with his family, and shout out to the person who was like, it's Cecil. And when the moment they said it, I was like, you know what? She right. I kept saying Cecil, but I was like, I know a Cecil. It wasn't lining up. Cecil, right? His nephew. How did Cecil come to the courthouse to represent him in the bigamy case? He was on the outs with his family, but Cecil shows up and he also writes a cease and desist letter for Sadella not to rough up old lady. Marley too. So something I go. Something definitely I go. Let's see here. Uh we have here many Jamaican mothers subject their children to abuse and abandonment. And you know what I realized this is true. And when I found this particular bit of information for my own family history, it took me a while to grapple with, well, how could you do this? And at that time, early 1900s, late 1800s, during the time that Marcus Garvey is doing his thing, that group of young adults there that grew up seeing their parents in the cane piece, grew up seeing certain things in the country, they decided, you know what? I'm out. Right? I'm not going to do this. And I did some research, the first generation that public school was available to everybody. Right. And so there was more schooling. They had more schooling than the generation before. This is Marcus Garvey generation, late 1800s. They're coming of age at the turn of the century. And then Panama opens up, Cuba opens up, America opens up. And so a lot of them decide, you know what, I'm going to leave. I'm going to migrate. This is before the Great Migration. So there was two great migrations in the United States, and then we know the European migration. And the earlier one took place during the early 1900s in the Harlem Renaissance. There were a lot of Caribbean people that left the Caribbean and came to Harlem during that time. And my great grandfather just happened to be one of them. And I found that out through the research. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. So let me see what else. So not only did his mother leave him, his father left him as well. Let me see here. Bob says, what did Bob say? If y'all see me look, Bob says, they say the blood runs and it runs through our line. Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. That DNA be pushing. Yes, Miss Booker's union with Bob was indeed, not Bob, with Norval. I mean, it was strange to a degree. If you look at the fact that Omariah, and I'm going to read a little bit from the book and then I'm going to open the line. Omariah is an interesting character. I think to understand who we are now, we got to understand where we're coming from. And Omariah, Bob's grandfather, he was a piece of work. He was a piece of work. And so when Bob comes back from the city, and his mother even says that basically, oh, that's the next chapter, that basically that he is like the right hand man. He's right there with his grandfather. That means he would have heard, seen, and learned many things, right? He doesn't talk about him as much as we think that he should have talked about him. But Esther Anderson, that documentary that I shared up here, she was like, I think that Bob's greatest influence was his grandfather. And his grandfather, we're going to talk about this polygamy. His grandfather was maybe no woman never their country because Omariah was taking them all. I was like, why did Norval resort to taking up this young girl? He must be like, Omariah Tifa, all of the eligible woman them, the spinster them. Because that's what they call them on paperwork, spinsters. Oh no, enough grandmothers was hot girl. Ati can't spoil. What you say? The granny them did I do the thing back in the day. Cecil or Cecil is Robert Cecil Marley, which was Robert Albert Marley's son, and Robert Albert Marley is Norval's brother. So when he first tells Sadella, "Oh, give me the child, my brother wants to school him," he was lying because his brother died in 1938. But the brother's son is Cecil, Robert Cecil. Yeah, Cecil is a nephew. It's not uncommon for women to have children, and we're going to look at some of the effects of the children. I had an opportunity to read. I'll be investing, y'all, to read Kimani Marley's book. For those who are looking for the book, for those who are looking for the book, I'm gonna put y'all on real quick. If y'all don't know about this site, the only hang up is, I know I heard that it's sold out, but there is an online site. I'm gonna share it here. It's called archive.org. A subscriber, shout out to you. You told me that there was another name called an intimate portrait, Bob Marley, an intimate portrait by his mother. And I scanned the book a little bit, and it looks like it's this book. It looks like they just rebranded it. And so you can check it out. It is online, but you can check it out, but you only can check it out for a certain period of time. So I'm going to go ahead and put the book here. And you guys, if you want to read it on your own, you can check it out. And then you have to have an account on there. But that's where I see some of the books that are out of print. Let's see here. The main thing is that in the olden days, adults started a lot earlier, so it seems strange to us, but it was normal in all cultures. I mean, not the feathering, but when I look at the paperwork, because I had to look at a lot of marriage paperwork, a lot of the women, they were still marrying like 20, 22. Like in the case of Sadella, they weren't usually marrying like 16, 18 years old for true, right? They were like, the man was usually 23, 25, and she's usually 20, 21, 22, them with it. And so 18 definitely would have been younger, because there's even a research article that talks about women in the Caribbean marrying later than other people, right? And so in addition to that, much like how Rita had that one child early, a lot of women at that time usually had that first child and that relationship didn't work. And so like Bob, when they get another relationship, the man usually accepts that child that was already there. That was customary. Unfortunately, it happened more often than not. Yeah, Omariah was bugging. Omariah was bugging again. But as we're saying, Omariah is bugging. Little 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old impressionable Bob is there watching all of these different women coming and going, all of these different children, the attitude of his grandfather. He doesn't have a father figure at this point. So, you have to, in his most impressionable time, he's taking all of this in. Everybody was greedy. Did you see the documentary when Bob is at Hope Road and he was like, "How many women do you think you're entitled to?" He said, "How many women? How many queen? Not just one queen. All of the queen them." Bob, all of the queen them, sir? All of them? So nobody else not get. You won. You wish Rowan had a book? Yeah, his story is interesting. It does come up. Yeah, see if it's the same book. I think it is the same book. Thank you, Kayla. Welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the conversation. Him just want all of the queen them. That's what he was saying. I'm like, Bob, where are you going with all of the queens? Now, my thought is, as I'm reflecting on, I had put up greetings to everybody who just shalom, welcome to those who just joined us. You know, when you look at, because we're going to talk about polygyny, right? And polygyny means you're married to more than one woman, or and it's not just singular. In that specific interview, if you saw that interview, you would see that that he's, I mean, not really into marriage. He wasn't really into marriage, right? So polygamy is multiple husbands or multiple wives. Polygyny is multiple women. GYN, right? So that's multiple women. He was into multiple women. He was not into marrying all these women or necessarily being accountable for all of these women. And he had a kind of weird thing, the same thing his father did, is that when the women got impregnated, then he would go look for somebody else. I don't know what was going on with that. You said Bob was speaking the truth. I mean, in that, there's a lot of people who saying that, you know, Rita wicked and the baby mother them wicked and everybody wicked, but when, and that there's a lot of confusion. But you have to look at who's the common denominator in all this. Not to take away from the musical side, there was somebody that was one common denominator, the common D, that was causing the confusion. He was causing confusion because during the time earlier on, right, when even in that interview, what's that, 1972, it's early on because his locks are really short, and you're at Hope Road cocking up, or the next one where you just chilling and bunning. Who's at home with the children? Who has a job? In Rita's book, she's at her aunt's house. You don't have a real job. She doesn't have a real job, and y'all almost up to 4 children. So when we look at what put the strain on the relationship, he may have felt like, okay, in name, you know, I'm this husband, but as a husband, how long is the wife going to tolerate the lack, the hunger, the poverty, right? While you continue to impregnate more women to be hungry, lack, and impoverished. I mean, if we look at it, we wouldn't say, oh yes, that's a nice way to be. In today's base and age, we'd be like, how did you breed for him? This is before he's Bob Marley. This is when he's just smoking, doing what he's doing, chatting and philosophizing. And you're picking them, someone else has to chip in because you and your wife together are not able to provide. That's just my thoughts. If we want to just look at that on a personal level, this was a little bit more than, oh, she was just hating because the woman have to love me, and if she love me, then she love the woman, then will love me. Sir, let me drop this let me see. Yeah, what changed? I think I was speaking to that. I think financial, if you look at some of the reasons for relationship problems, economics is like right up there. And that is a lot of Rita's lamenting in her book very early on, that all he's doing is hanging out with man and man. So I saw, not Don Taylor, I saw Alan Skill Cole said he was there from the beginning. So were you the man and man them that he was hanging out with while he didn't go home? You know what I mean? Like, were y'all encouraging him to stand up and take care of his family? Because they were floundering, according to their accounts. Empress Love, welcome to the conversation. Like, we keep talking about, Chief says polygamy is more natural than monogamy. But the thing I find with this conversation is we pick out the parts we like. Providing for our family is natural as the man. Protecting the family is natural for the man, or is it not? Or is it something that he has to work on? Because someone could say, was he protecting his family when it was only Sharon and him, and then Sadella, him and Rita? Was he there? Was he present? Or was he involved in other things that made his family realize, okay, maybe we're not that important in the scheme of things? Just some questions. He said me entitled to all the queens. Oh, marriage? No, me not believe in a marriage. Yep, he was very young. He was very young. Yep, there was some dysfunctionality in there, I would believe. Friday says, speaking facts and name holographic husbands and fathers is what has plagued our culture for generations. I like that term. Holographic. They're there, but they're really not there. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're there in name, but everything that is involved with how it takes a lot. Like, let's stop playing game. It's not like, woo, ooh, and yeah, man, about how much pick me up? No, it don't work like that. And then is it fair to put the entire responsibility worrying about this is why they kept going back and forth to America and how Stephen was born in America. In 1971, according to the accounts, Bob breed 3 women in the space of 1 month, including his wife. 3 women in the space of 1 month, one of which was your wife. Rita says in her book, 1971 was a terrible year for her. Like he was going down First Street and knock on door, take this woman, go on Second Street, knock on the next door. Like what was going on with you in 1971, brother? What was really going on? Let me see here. Bob benefits from pretty privilege, not the pretty privilege. In the documentary, one of the women said, no matter what he did, the woman couldn't hate him for it. I saw that. Another place I used to host with, the host used to call it bright privilege, right? You say that, like you're saying, you give people a pass because of how they look, because of how they presented themselves. But if it was somebody else, if it was anybody else, you would have said it was Amzos. If it was anybody else, you would have said it was wrong. But because it's somebody we favor, that's not just. Justice is justice no matter who it is. So if anybody else was doing what we see here and brought the women to a point where, like in Kimani Marley's book, he's talking about the impoverished situation that he lived under, and he's putting the onus on the women, namely Rita Marley. And I'm like, wait a minute, your father did not secure you guys. When he met you, when he met your mother, she was in this condition. And then he had, what were you, 5 when he passed, 6 when he passed? Did he secure you guys? I find it interesting that the onus is on the woman when there was one common denominator doing the Norval all over town. I don't understand it. But let's continue. Yeah, I saw that. The side chick that told her to stop having babies was Esther Anderson. And if you watch that documentary, I just watched it, found it on YouTube, finally. She goes into how she ended up with Bob and how she didn't know he was married. So Alan Skill Cole, his homie G, said he went around lying to everybody. He was doing the Norval. You remember when Norval was in court? Me uncle remember I married no time. No, me never married, man. He was doing the Norval in court. He was doing the Norval. Yo, Prudent Mom says she would have breed for Bob. Yo, put up on an honor for no that breed for Bob. No way, no, oh, Bridget. What? Yeah, it's late. I had a long day. Why you say you would have breed for Bob? We appreciate your honesty. We do have to take accountability for our own decisions. We do. I don't think polygamy is multiple marriages. No, polygyny is easier for the male. Multiple women, not being responsible for all of these multiple women. That's not the easy one. The easier one is the access to the women. Because these women were basically, on their own. So much so that one of them was 16, Rowan's mother. That's how the child ended up having to come for someone to raise him. Like when you planted your seed in that ground, Rastaman, when you was born in your spliff, right? You're a planter, you're a gardener. You tell everybody that you're a planter, you're a gardener. You don't just come Johnny Apple seeding your seed everywhere, pan stony ground, pan top of one rooftop, anywhere you feel like it. That's not wise, sound principles. So we see in one area somebody may be wise, and in practice, they may not be practicing it. Kim B, she said Jamaican relatives cheat on their women all the time. It's not anti, and I'm about to open up the mic as soon as I read it. This is not anti men. We literally just read through an experience, and we're seeing the manifestation of this experience. And this is another thing that, in my estimation, in my time in doing this type of work, and it's not now I'm having these type of conversations. Anytime we want to bring out, say, what's going on or wrong with what the male is doing, then the male gets upset. This is anti-male. And then when you say, okay, this is where the women went wrong, the accountability, where you let him through the gate and you should have, it's anti-woman. If we don't look at these very hard topics, we can never get past it. As we can see, this is a broken model. So somewhere along the line, we have to be able to be like, you know what, it stings a little bit, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? No romance without finance. Marcy says she agree. The man was the messenger for what? Because you have the messenger, and then you have the manifestation of what the messenger has brought. And one of the thing is that there is a dissonance. There is a disconnect between what you're saying and what you're doing. And when that happens, confusion ensues. We keep looking at, and has happened through us throughout the time. This has happened to us throughout the time. You're saying one thing and doing another. It creates this dissonance, and then the people who are following and are listening are confused. That's like me saying, you know what? It's not good to burn ganja. Also, me, yeah, man. So, ain't like, wait a minute. Did she just say it's not good to burn ganja? Like, what's going on? And what happens is, I think consciously or unconsciously, the pain and hurt that he experienced, that we just read all about, he inflicted it on other people. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. Yo, did they say he was community? I'm not even going to put that up there. A man must provide. We must choose men. Yes. How could you have all of these children and that cannot make sufficient provision? In his own mother's book, she talks about, and Rita's book, make them kill themselves over it, meaning the resources, meaning I'm going to make sure that everybody's all right. And I don't want to misquote them, but his mother spoke to the fact that he did not. Diane Jobson, the lawyer lady, was there the whole time when he was sick. He never put it down on paper. Therefore, y'all on your own. People like, oh, Rita just walked up and got it. She battled for 10 years. How did she just jump into the courtroom and get it? So how were you really making sure that those who came after you were going to be okay when you didn't secure them, when you had every opportunity to do so? These are the things we can learn. That's not tearing down what the person has done. I love Exodus song more than anybody. I could sing Redemption song with my eyes closed. That doesn't mean that certain things in the next generation can be corrected. When we saw Lauryn Hill and Rowan's daughter come out a few years ago, listen to what she said. And everybody was like, oh, what is she talking about? Sila Marley. She was talking about, oh, her father not being there and how much it hurt her and the tumultuous relationship. Same thing that happened to the generation before. Same thing that happened. This is the third generation who's saying similar things. That means that it's cycling until somebody says, okay, something is not right. So even though their name is notable, and I'm just using them as an example because they're visible and that we can learn from it. But again, in our own families, similar things that we can go through. Yeah, the holographic. The chief said, being a provider and protector comes with territory of being a man. If a man can't take care for or protect his woman, he does not need to be married. That's probably why I'm like, I don't even remember I'm married. I mean, I not lie, me I tell you, man, one woman come up and kiss me and all of a sudden, before me know it, I married. But don't even remember. Why did Bob say somebody guzzled him, son? Come on now. The hanging out with Rana man is a Rasta thing. I absolutely know that. I know that firsthand. And a lot of the time, the younger generation, I know that firsthand. This is my lived account. And shout out to all the people. Somebody told me on the channel, I have Jamaican friends. I'm like, what? I grew up in the culture. What do we say? I know it firsthand. I've experienced as a child being in and around Rasta culture, and the woman has a lot of the onus on her, while the brethren them get to sit down and philosophize about the sky. I know it blue and sometime when it green and Jah know a star. Bruh, the children are hungry. What's really good? What we doing? There are a lot of men around at my home reasoning with my dad, hanging out, taking in young Rasta men that needed a place to stay. Yeah, it was a whole culture, but there was also some armsos on side of the culture, because if you're doing this, then you're not doing that, right? And so that Jerry said, "Baba, but good." Boy, in the beginning, if you look at the Esther, Anderson documentary, he finessed. I didn't even want to bust the secret, but he finesses Esther Anderson. I'm not going to go down so far into Bob. Let me read a little bit about what he asked his mother, and then I'm going to open up the mic so we're not rocking too long, right? So we just read all about Norval, because Bob going to have me tumbling down this rabbit hole. So we had a novel, right? He didn't see his father a lot. So let me read a little bit. During those days, this is when he was dying. This part of the book is really sad. It's really sad. Okay. During those days of dying, Nesta's mind would often dart like a bat out of the cave of pain and suffering he was trapped in and fly off at distant times and pray in free places where he had once lived as a strong and healthy man. He would linger in that distant place briefly, fleeting before the pain would draw him back again to the torture chamber of the present. I mean, the man did under pressure. We just see the pictures. But what also occurred to me, the description of Miss Gray, this bald, frail woman who was sitting in a chair, it also came to me. Weird parallels. Please forgive me. It may be a stretch. I may be doing Pilates, but hear me out. The picture that Sedella painted of Miss Gray, if you look at the end of life of how Bob looked, his locks had to get cut off because they fell out through chemo. He lost all his weight. That same image that she described of Miss Gray came to my mind. I don't know why, but I think there's a parallel there. But let me continue. That's a grain of salt, y'all. Take it with a grain of salt. Hold on one second. Hold on. Okay. One night, for example, he was laying in the dark, not moving, saying nothing. The house was still. It was a winter night, and the whole Germany was crusted over with a bitter iciness. Nesta groaned and shifted. Then he asked me quietly, Mama, was my daddy a bad man? This is a grown man, 36 years old. He went through the world. Everybody is singing his name. He's well acclaimed. He's celebrated. And he's still in his dying moments thinking about the void, thinking about the part that he knows nothing about. And he asks his mother, was his daddy a bad man? Of all the questions, because he's wondering why, if he was singing the music and he was the messenger and he was representing Rastafari and he was doing all of these things, why is he having such a, not only just a death, a painful death? Like he escaped the assassination attempt to die painfully. So he has a lot of time and reflecting that people often tend to look over. It says it caught me by surprise, this question, and it took me back to 9 miles. We already went over that. To the cool, misty nights when, as a curious young girl, I would sneak up the hillside to sleep in a captain arm. I don't know if she did tell him that part there. No, I said carefully, your daddy wasn't a bad man. He was just a poor man. And he run into a lot of pressures from his family. I tried to tell him about his father, about what a handsome figure he cut riding his horse. So then, are we still doing this? Are we still doing this? I'm sorry, y'all. Across the comments up in 9 miles about how his own family had disowned him when they found out that he had married a black woman who had borne his child. I don't think Norbert was 100% on that. How he was a crying man who would burst into tears over every little foolishness. Rita says the same thing about Bob, that he did easy for cry. Even Sedella gave an interview. It wasn't Sedella or Sharon that he was easy to cry. So he was much like Norval in that respect, about how he ended up poor and helpless in his old age because of the disinheritance he had suffered over his black wife. But I had trouble finding the right words. We had traveled so far from that distant place in time. Faraway dreams, those things had all happened before the season of sickness and pain. Plus, Nesta had stopped listening because the pain was eating him again, making him groan. So I just wanted to read that because I thought that was telling that in the end of his days, all of that didn't really matter to him. He wanted to know what happened, who was his father, and where did he come from. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the mic here. You guys share your thoughts respectfully, and yeah, I look forward to the discussion. Let me see if there's any more questions in the interim. He had no healthy model, responsible husband. From what we were told, it was lacking in the male representation department. We didn't get to Sydney yet. We didn't get to Sydney. Fame and popularity and his beauty. Okay, he had no. You can see how he works the camera, even in the documentary when he was younger. You can see this. I don't want to call it sexual energy, but it's kind of it has a kind of, he knew what he was doing. He knew what, let me just say that. When you see this documentary, if you've already seen it, you see the way he's interacting with the camera. You're like, yo, Bob, calm down, fam. Go put on your shirt, Benji. What? Don't want to cock off and chest out that door and yeah, and I lean back and I try luring the people. What kind of thing that? Rasta man, go put on your shirt and behave yourself. In that interview, let me see here. Yeah, I heard about Benny Weller's whole situation as well. Why somebody said Bob's pickup line is, you want a baby for me? Me want breedy, you know, girl. Like, what kind of like? No, actually, and I was gonna save this, but I guess I'll do an official video. But according to Esther Anderson, she and Bob collectively wrote "I Shot the Sheriff," and one of the lines, according to him, y'all tell me if y'all saw this part. He was upset because she went to the doctor and got birth control, and he was upset because he wanted to breed her, and she was like, absolutely not, because when he met her, she was already established. She was more established than him. I think he likes women who are a little more established than him. Even though Rita didn't have a lot, she had a place to live. Even though Esther Anderson didn't have like a lot, she was already in a movie with Sidney Poitier, right? Even though let's see, he came in Cindy on the she was on the, you know, but they were appreciative, as Alan Skill Cole said, of where she was able to take him. And so he has an eye for women who can help him get to the next level. And so according to what she said, part of that I Shot the Sheriff is about birth control not letting his seed grow. And if you look at the interview, that short interview, the black and white one, he was like, the woman said, can you have more than one wife? Him said, him in the wife thing. He said, can your woman have more than one husband? Him said, no, what kind of thing that? Right? And so he's not a polygamist, he's a polygynist, because polygamy, then he wouldn't have an issue with Rita and Taki necessarily. I put the link in the description. Yeah, he was his father's son. Now that we learned about his father. Esther was with him. I mean, according to her, they were in a relationship. In Rita's book, when Bob disappears for like 3 months, he's in Little Bay building a house that's still there to this day with Esther. Actually, he put the battery in Esther's back, according to her narrative, that, oh, is a house like this, Mawan with Bill. And when he disappears for 3 months, he's over there cocking up in the house that they built. And she says when she came back to Kingston in 74, she found out that he was giving her bun and cheese with Sydney. So he was on to the next. I guess because he couldn't breed her. He was like, but now waste no more time. Me not breed you. Let me go breed somebody else. She claimed that, according to Esther, it was her mother that told her that he was married and had a child on the way. So she's claiming that she didn't know that he was married because he swear blind said him not married. And according to his ace Boon Coon, that's what he was running around telling the people, that he wasn't married. So everybody believed him. I mean, I think I heard that the Rastas was running them for other reasons. Stephanie, I think I forgot who told the story. I think it's Fred Locks. I saw an interview with Fred Locks from 12 Tribe, and they was telling the story that the Rasta them was running them for not being authentic dreads. According to Esther Anderson said a lot. She encouraged Bob and Bunny and them to grow their hair. At the time, they just had a wolf out. And according to her, in 72, 73, she encouraged them to locks, that she wanted to merge reggae and Rastafari, and that was her brainchild. I don't know. Did y'all hear that? Let me know. Oh, a lot of the girls, well, if the easier ones to navigate around, a lot of the girls were teenage girls. Mother said he would tell her, don't get a boyfriend. Yeah, I saw that one. So the question is it karma? Later on in the book, he tells his mother, I know we're jumping to the end, although we're not done yet because there's some more interesting parts. But in one part, he tells his mother that as Rita gave him cancer. So then he's wondering if he was a bad person. This is the reflections of how, when he was in his strength, everything was all good. But now he's suffering and he's thinking back in his mind, what did he do? Is he a bad person? Didn't he represent the creator? Why is this happening to him? Then he was looking for people to blame. And of course, according to his mother, he blamed Rita, that Rita is the one, I'm trying to look for it, that gave him cancer. Even though we're not up to that part, because we're talking about karma, right? So I kind of wanted to, so that Rita is the one who gave him cancer, and why is this happening to him? So he definitely went through a lot of mental, emotional turmoil. It's not that he got away scotch-free with the things that he was doing. He had an opportunity to really reflect on what he was doing and how things turned out. So that's the karmic part of it. Not only just his father's behavior, but in his lifetime, a lot of the pain and the agony that other people experienced, he also experienced for one reason or another. And I was looking up older men. I'm not trying to look for this thing here. I wasn't going to read it, but maybe I'll read it again. Older men, and how sometimes the sperm of older men, a lot of time we don't speak about this, the sperm of older men can be compromised. And his father was in his 60s when he fathered him, smoking pipes on the porch. So there's a possibility that there was something genetic within him. This is why later on, Rita asked his mother about his father and was there any sickness that ran in their family, because genetic wise, there was something going on with him. I can't find it right now. But yeah, he tried to blame Rita. We'll get back that. He said Rita gave him cancer. I don't know how Rita gave him cancer, but okay. Back in the days, most Rasta man used to say, take a woman and call her a wife. Yeah, the whole wife thing. But as we see, if Rita was that kind of wife, she couldn't have stand and fight for the estate. It wouldn't have happened, right? So, power of the woman. Jamaican man. Yo, y'all going in on Jamaican man. Listen. When them say, I'll Jamaican man run bakery, then give on. Then give on. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a broken model. Let's see here. Women are known to historically unaccountable for their actions. Feel free to share. Yeah, I put the link in the box. So if you want to come up and share your thoughts on that, because that's a very broad statement. That's a very broad statement. If we're going to stick to what's going on here, even though in the beginning his mother is saying, as well as Rita's book is alluding to her not taking accountability in the beginning, that this was Taki's child. She had to come to terms with, listen, she got impregnated. Even though Bob was doing the absolute most, she got impregnated by somebody else. And that had to be known. And she had to live with that stigma. So, and so is that an example of women not taking accountability? Like, I need a little bit, like, flesh that out for me a little bit. Hold on. Stephanie said they won't make him a Jamaican hero. It's just being honest and accountable to where we have accepted certain practices that we once glorified and can now see needs correct. We are correct. Look how far we are from this generation, from that generation, from our grandparents and great grandparents' generation. There are certain things that we need to look back and correct. Just because it has been doesn't mean it needs to continue to be, and doesn't mean it was right. It caused a lot of fracturing. It caused a lot of issues. It caused a lot of problems within the family unit. Things that we normalize now. That's not normal. Right? I see Winter has come in. Winter, welcome to the conversation. I'm gonna add you up to the stage.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm all right.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's so many different things we can talk about when it comes to Bob
Mm-hmm.
and his upbringing and stuff like that. But I think it's just like more of his environment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you live in an environment where everything is happening, it becomes a normal thing. Like I said, from Sidella's childhood when he was born, I mean, his
Right.
grandfather from Sidella's side, everything like that behavior is normal to him,
Right.
So whether even if his father was potentially, in my opinion, a good person, never cheated, was a good man, he probably would have ended up the same way.
Mm.
Simply because of, like, again, like, even if his father was, like I said, good, and he even went to Kingston, and that type of people that he was around at such a young age, is like he grew up a little bit too fast. You
Right.
understand? I mean, example, I was a wild teenager. I moved out my mom's house when she took me to England at 16 years old, 17 years old. I moved out. I
Mm.
got married at 21. I had my first child at 23. I'm 46 now, and I'm still
Mm.
married. And I don't
Okay.
have none of those issues. My husband was born here, but his parents are proper country Jamaican people. But the
Right.
environment he grew up seeing, like in a marital home, he did.
Right.
I didn't. You understand where I'm coming from? So I
Right.
think
Right.
it's just, he is a product of his environment.
That's a good point. And that's why I think it's interesting to know and important to know the environment that he's coming from. The
Yeah,
model, right? That's why I took the time to go over his grandfather and things like that, so
yeah,
that we could see
yeah.
this. It's not an anomaly. The behavior is not new. It may be like new to
No,
us, but it wasn't new to him.
no, it
I
wasn't.
agree.
Definitely not. And like I said, moving to Kingston, being accepted in the studio. And then a lot of people, I notice when I comment, if I'm not picking sides. I have no special feeling for Cindy or anything like that. However, I have a special thing for all women. I'm a feminist. You understand? And I don't like to see other women put other women down. Regardless of what she did, I don't agree with it. I wouldn't do it. And like I said, I wouldn't like somebody to come into my relationship that I am in. You understand where I'm coming from? But to see people calling them, all of them, side chicks, and I really don't like it, because at the end of the day, the man is the one that owes the loyalty. Cindy, Esther, none of them owe Rita any form of loyalty. Their thing is their own self respect. And then this man is the one that owes Rita loyalty. They don't have to. People, you see, the thing with us, as people, especially Black people, we like to call up for freedom of speech, but then we can't. When we try to express who we really are, people shut us down.
Mm.
Do you understand where I'm coming from? So, for me, in the whole thing, I know we're talking about the book, but part of why this whole book thing came up is obviously because of the movie, because of what Cindy, or whatever her name is, said on
Right.
the blog about.
IG.
I
Right.
don't disagree with what she did, and the reason why I don't disagree with what she did is because Rita accepts her. So for us to be arguing, saying she's out of order, she's this, Rita already gave her that pass. Because when Bob was dying, Rita said it out of her own mouth. She called Cindy to come in. They took turns in looking after him. So if she can do all of that, you understand where I'm coming from? Cindy can say anything she wants,
I mean,
because
I think,
Rita made it clear. She made it clear they weren't in a relationship. If I think,
yeah.
if I would have understood if Rita and Bob was still in a relationship. They broke up a long time ago. You've read that in the book. Even in the New
Yeah.
York thing, she said she literally did, she accepted him now as a brother because it was better for her. That's her words, to be a good sister than a terrible wife.
A miserable wife. That you say.
Exactly, exactly. So she detached herself. She was no longer in a relationship with Bob. So she, though it's on paper that they're married, you understand, because they never divorced. They weren't. They're not husband and wives in that kind of,
So,
in a physical
you
aspect.
know what I find? I didn't get to that part yet. What you're saying is true, but I think it
Yeah.
is not clear even to the viewing audience, right? Because these are the
Right.
things we're learning now.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I
later
agree.
on, when he's in pain, right? He's
Mm-hmm.
lamenting to his mother, "Oh, Rita, wicked! She no come look for him
Yeah.
because Rita at this time, I'm sorry, she trying to do her little record thing, right? And so her
Yeah.
letting Cindy come is her to go and do her music. And so he's lamenting to his mother after he did her. It's like he wanted her to be just stay in a suspended state and then come when he felt her to come. And so when she's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Nah, bro, it's not gonna work like that," I don't think it went well with him. I'm trying. We're gonna get to that part, but he's like,
I
"Rita,
think
Wiki."
he's obsessive and possessive. He
Yes.
just wants, he think he owns, he sees women.
Yes.
Listening to his interviews, I'm gonna come off now so you can speak to
No, you're
everybody
all
else.
right, man.
But
You're all right.
I think with Bob, he actually think he owns people. It's the same thing when I'm listening to the reading of Don Taylor's book. I think that book is so important because my problem,
I'm
I know a
waiting
lot
for
of
it to
people.
come.
I
Mm-hmm.
know, I know you're waiting, but a lot of people, I know a lot of people bash it and whatever. But the important thing is that if he was lying, they would have taken it down. It couldn't have been on the shelf. It couldn't have been on the shelf because they would have sued him. I mean, Don has money. He had his
Mm-hmm.
money. He had his drug problem at the end of it, but he had money. They wouldn't allow it to happen. You
Mm.
understand? So there, obviously with all books, there is some bit of like exaggeration, or
Right, a
you know,
skew.
they
Right,
add
right,
things in. Yeah, they add
right,
things in it that, you know, to make it more juicy. I mean, we see that in
right.
Sedella's book.
Sensationalize it.
Yeah, because I mean, she went on an interview saying that some of the things that's in the book she didn't actually say it. So we see things like that. But with Sedella, I think all of them, every single one of them mix up. They mix up and them change their mind because Sedella, like Rita, when Rita actually when she had to crawl to Rita because Bob left her nothing as well.
That's what she said. She actually said
Bob
Chris
never
Black
leave
that
her nothing.
the Bob never leave nobody nothing. I can't tell them in
No,
say make them fight over
no,
it.
he
So
left in Don's
that's
book,
what they
which
said.
you'll come to. I know, but
Yeah,
in
we're gonna come
Don
to that,
said,
but he didn't secure them in the way that, and I think the
no,
same
not
way
that
that
way.
she
No,
felt when she met the lady on the road and Norval didn't secure her or him,
exactly.
Bob
He
didn't
didn't.
secure them in that way. He didn't give
No,
them a
he
sense
didn't.
of security. No.
He apparently Don said he phoned him and said the money because you see, you remember them beat up Don, you know, said Don
Yeah,
thief,
that
you
them
know,
say.
remember? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big thing. Everybody knew because that was even in papers at the
Right.
you know, back in the day and whatever. Them beat up Donna everything said Dan thief, but well, him never take Dan name out of anything. And Dan
Hmm.
name in everything when him dead. And him apparently him
Mm.
phone Dan and tell Dan said the money if you make sure them kids them all right. But Dan, you will see it anyway. Dan go take 17 million, go give Rita. And then Rita now start give Rowan $90 a month. I mean, that's messed up.
And this, but this is what I'm. This is this. We say she got over it, but did she really? You understand what I'm saying? Did she really get over it? Because if she did,
No, she
would
didn't. She didn't
she,
because
right?
I
She
don't want to
didn't.
spoil it too much. She didn't get over
Right,
it.
right.
She made a speech because when Dan confronted her, she made a speech. But me now gonna spoil it too much for you. You will
Nobody
read
spoil
because
it.
you say
Nobody
you wait for
spoil it. We soon
no,
come.
you
The
wait
book
for the
at
book
come.
and we need it because we need to discuss it when the time come.
No, and the
Yeah,
book at come, man.
she made her remarks and we know it's clear
She
she
never got
didn't get
over
over
it.
it. No, she
I think that
didn't. She
everybody's
didn't.
saying
But
it was a
you know,
mission and they saw it was bigger than themselves and they didn't have time to process as human beings because everything was going so fast, right? They're
I
in this
know, I
they're
know.
in this limelight and they have to be on stage and you got to go on tour. Like for that 7 years when they started
Mm-hmm.
popping on Island Record to the end, they were
Mm-hmm.
touring. So they
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have time to stop and really process what they were experiencing, in my estimation, right?
Yeah,
So now
it
when
was
it's
a lot,
all,
but
it was a lot. It was
it
definitely
was
a
a
lot.
lot. Bob, I'm not gonna lie. I'm upset. I'm really upset. I know it's none of my business because you know whatever, but they make it with business because then put it
I
them
know them
tour
come
in a
tell
book,
we. I know we. I
and
know we.
then
And
put
that
their
them come
tour
tell
in a
we. No,
book and go make
yes, and
sure
that.
make me turn me I start them and I something. So end of the day, sis, Bob messed up. He really did mess up, and I thought that was a bit. It was really selfish of him to put. He shouldn't have put them through that, especially Rita. He shouldn't have put her through that.
No
But he
man, him
didn't
put her
trust
through
her.
some things,
It
man.
was a lot. You will see anyway. He didn't trust her. He
He
didn't
put
trust
her
her.
through
And
some things. Yeah.
one more thing I wanna say because it's in the chat a lot. Like we were talking about it a lot. Is the somebody had asked when did he change, but apparently even from Sidella's book he changed very very early
Mm-hmm.
after the marriage, so I couldn't understand, so I tried to find out why. So I found some stuff, and apparently what happened was that, you know, Sidella is the first child she has
Right.
for Bob, isn't it?
Yeah.
Apparently when Sidella was born, there was a mix up going on at the time that because he was away when I think when was Sidela was away and come back in the Goa when Sidela
No, he
born
left
or
in
whatever.
'66. They married. He goes to
Yeah,
Delaware for 10 months. Comes back in November. Sedella born, I think, August. So them go have them nice time. I can't fit them words. And then Sedella is born. So he's back from that first
So
trip
yes, because
because
they
she's
mentioned
conceived and
something
then she's
about
born. Yeah.
them come back, then Stella born, and then apparently some big thing that breakout say some raffle business say the Stella is for planner, what you call him,
Who that?
Peter
Bunny Wailer
Todd.
open letter? Is it the open letter from Bunny Wailer?
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
saw
I think
that.
so.
I'm like,
Yeah,
can I
yeah.
confirm this source right here? Because that letter was filled with vitriol, boy. I'm like, who wrote this?
Yeah, I know he was bitter because obviously there was a lot of things that happened, like obviously, with money
Right.
and stuff like that. He was bitter, regardless of
He
whatever
was
he was,
bitter
he
like
was bitter.
Cersei.
But even though in bitter, because somebody think
Like
them talk, say
Cersei.
me no say not true. Worse than Cersei. Bitter like the like the hurt like the liquor they something them where the people them are sell on Brixton market.
True.
The rest of them afraid the bitters them.
The
Afraid
bitters,
of
the
them.
little brown thing in our buckle.
What may I tell you?
For
Every
real. This
time I
will
want
wash
to
you
buy
out,
one,
you
I'm
know,
afraid.
sis. Empress, take that thing
May I
right, go
tell
make it
you?
clean. Your skin will go pretty.
May I tell you? I'm afraid of them. The smell alone make me afraid. It smell bitter. But
Uh,
yeah, I'm waiting for you to get to that book, and if you can, I know you're very, very good at digging to find out
yeah,
more
yeah,
about this
yeah.
open letter, because that then open letter they
That's
kind
why I
of
haven't
have me
touched
a
it
little
yet.
kind of way.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
touched it yet. I saw it and I was like,
But
I gotta do some
I
background
heard the
investigation.
argument. In the open letter, I spoke about the Africa thing as well, about she going to Africa
Yeah,
and
I
stealing and
saw
stuff.
that.
I've heard that elsewhere as well.
We definitely gonna
I've
get to that. We definitely gonna get to that. Thank
Yeah,
you so
yeah,
much, Winter. Thank you
definitely.
for coming through. And
No
definitely
problem.
continue. Yeah, man, continue to share your thoughts. They're very
All
insightful.
right then. Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Bless.
Okay then. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome. Afro Carib, welcome to the conversation.
Thank
Oops, sorry. Go ahead. Hello?
yes, thank you.
Yes,
Can you?
welcome.
Yes, I just first I wanted to congratulate you on your series. I just recently found you popped up on my YouTube, so I've tried to catch up. I haven't seen all of the book readings, but I've seen quite a bit of them.
Okay.
I just wanted to tell you, this is definitely your lane, and I would like to see you progress and do other
Thank you.
books and make other presentations. I'm Jamaican and I'm an
Okay.
elder. I'm now in Canada. I'm sort of back and forth. I've moved back to Jamaica, come back, but I've been in Africa for a couple of years. And I wanted to address the issue that it's popping up in the chat, and you also referenced the idea that some of Bob's behavior seemed to reflect what his father's behavior was like towards women specifically. And I think growing up in Jamaica, people would say to you, you're just like your father and whatever. But I don't think if you don't put it in the context of how African people look at ancestry and what that really means, and we tend to look at everything in the physical, that there's a
Mm,
spiritual link there. And I think in regards to Bob and his father, I think it's definitely I don't want to use the word karma, but I think his behavior towards women reflects a lot of who his father was. And I think sometimes, the apple don't fall far from the tree kind of thing
chip,
is
chip
definitely
not far, far
appropriate.
from the block.
Hmm?
I
Yeah,
said
chip
chip
off
not
of the
far, far
block.
from the block.
And that doesn't mean he didn't have an opportunity to do differently. As you
Correct.
made reference earlier about correction. But
Correct.
I think as Jamaicans, we have a tendency, or culture kind of co-signs this kind of behavior with
True.
men. So it's like the culture itself is a big part of it. But I think his lineage is also an overwhelming reason why he behaved the way he did towards women. And I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned.
True.
I hope a lot of young people get to see your series or
True.
hear your presentation, because I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned from his life. And pretty much I think we can all learn, but the next generation hopefully can make the changes that are necessary.
I
Thank
absolutely
you.
agree. Thank you so much.
Okay,
And
you're
that's what,
welcome.
thank you. That's the reason why I'm doing this. Because it's something that we all can see, all can relate to. And life is, people say, why are you doing this? This is gossip, Amuna. I'm like, bruh, they wrote their own book. Like, I am reading it. As a matter of fact, somebody told me to shout it out. The Rita Marley book is #1 right now on Amazon, trending on Amazon, in the reggae category, #1. So big up yourself, you know what I mean? Because the stories, if we don't read our stories and connect with our stories and learn from our stories, we're gonna be doomed to repeat it. And so I've always loved reading, and it's a blessing to be able to share it, like you said, in this capacity. So give thanks for that. We see Nasima back in the spot. Welcome to the conversation.
Hi. I just wanted to respond to that caller that was saying that they were a feminist, but then at the same time, they were trying to berate Rita by bringing up somebody that was not really a reliable source, as in Don Taylor. And then you want to bring up gossip in terms of Bunny Wailer's open letter, when a lot of have you read that letter?
I read the letter, and like I said, I haven't brought it to the forefront because I'm
And
trying to
it's not
confirm the
something you would
source.
even bring to the forefront. Like, why are you bringing up weird, like, pathetic rumors saying Sedella is not Bob's child?
She
Anyone,
looked just like
everybody,
him, though.
yeah, everybody knows that's his firstborn child biologically. So I don't know why you're bringing that up. And like, it just really rubbed me the wrong way when I was listening to her. She was like, "I'm a feminist," and I think she's in the comments. It's what's her name? Let me look in the comments right now. It's Winter Williams. She's in the comments constantly, I've noticed. I think she's I think that's Cindy's burner. Cindy, is that you, girl?
That is not Cindy on the bill of
Cindy, is
herself.
that
We're
you?
gonna have a lovely conversation. We have a winter. Listen now, we allowed to have varying opinions. That's how we gonna get to the bottom of the matter. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
it is.
So
But girl, I'm not with
definitely.
all of that, because one thing I've noticed because I've been a Bob fan for a very long time. I've read all the books, not just the Sedellas or the Ritas, but the
Mhm.
actual biographies. Do you know what I mean? Just to get a very skewed sense, because you have to read everything with a grain of salt, correct? Not
You do.
everything is facts in
That's
either
true.
in any books, in his mother's book, because they're all gonna want to put out a narrative that is best suited for them, correct?
Well, to the degree, I would say that's why I do what I do, which is his mother gave something, and I wanted to verify, like, how far do I take this? You know what I'm saying?
Fact.
And so seeing that what some of the things she was saying was checking out, and some of the things that she was saying I couldn't confirm. I would say that she was towing the line of factual things, right? Because we're able to confirm some of the stuff that she was saying. Not all of it, like Omariah. I found a lot of his children. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, to a certain degree,
Girl.
his mother is on the track of, keeping things on the up and up. But go ahead.
But then one thing that I have noticed within those in maybe Bob's circle, like, the Alan Skill Coles or the Bunny Whalers or the Don Taylors, have you noticed they always have something negative to say about Rita in
They do. I
some
did
way?
notice that.
Have you noticed that?
I
And it's
noticed
like
that the last interview. I don't mean to cut you. The last TVJ interview that just happened like last week. I could feel people's energy, and Alan's energy. He kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, he
there is
had like a level of like vitriol, but he was kind of masking it a little bit. And so yeah, but go ahead. I
that
saw
is
that.
exactly the energy I feel like Rita gets from certain people, and it's like, it's just, and then you know what they do? They downplay Rita, and then who did they glorify?
He's glorified Cindy.
And but why though? Why did they want to downplay the black dark skinned woman who's there from day one, who can say with her chest? Rita Marley can say with her chest, "I made Bob Marley who he is today." Can Cindy say the same?
They're gonna say, according to Alan Skill Cole, because I like to play. I don't do it with
That
devil
made me
advocate.
cringe.
Yeah,
Why is he
according
saying?
to him.
No, that made me cringe because he was saying, Rita was she helped him too, but so did Cindy. What did Cindy
Yeah,
help him with? I'm very
yeah.
confused
He gave
because
her the
Cindy
runner
got
up. He gave her the
because Cindy.
consolation prize.
Okay, so you're telling me because Cindy put him in the headlines of newspapers, that is the equivalent of someone legit making your name known to what it is today. Why are we still living in the past? I don't get it. Like, is Cindy and Alan Skill Cole still stuck in 1976
It
when
may
she was
be.
relevant for a few months?
I mean,
What
to
did
a
she
certain
contribute significant to Bob Marley's career? I need to know.
press.
Press. Is that it?
Press. I
So
mean,
you're
that's what
telling
I
me
got from the conversation. I would never did it, but according to what I'm hearing him say, she put him in a certain light that was
so Alan
advantageous
Skillcott is
to.
trying to compare the woman who rode
Mm-hmm.
on her bicycle, selling
I
his
get licked
records,
on. Mm-hmm.
to a woman that put him in the headlines for a few months. I just think that is so disrespectful. Like, do people not see like there's a real deep colorism aspect into this? Like, how dare you? Like, that shit is like, now I see why Rita's kids kind of got clapped back at these people, because it's like, Rita is the only woman who can say with her chest, I made Bob Marley the man he is today. But why do people like to downplay that? And then they go, Sedella's not his child. Did you read Bonnie
Yeah,
Williams' letter?
she looked just like
What
him.
is
I
it?
don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Like,
I
what
don't
is
know.
this?
I
Like,
wasn't
why are
there.
you talking? Yeah, and I'm just clocking things in these comments, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not going to downplay the woman that was there from day one, the woman that sacrificed. Rita Marley went through a lot, and if you watch her interviews, like in the Marley documentary, and the man asks her, "How did you deal with Bob Marley's infidelities?" What does she say? She's like, "Well, I did it for the mission, for the
Did it for the
purpose."
mission. Yeah.
But she's
Self-sacrifice.
bullshitting. She's doing that for the cameras. She doesn't want you people to see her sweat. You don't think Rita Marley went through immense amount of pain and humiliation? She always thought she has to put up this really strong front so you people don't berate her, but people still berate her.
Sorry, sis, you're breaking up. Hello?
Oh, could you hear what? Did you hear what I said?
Yes. Yeah, I heard the last part.
But it's like people don't like. She doesn't want to show her pain out. And I was reading an interview. You know, the director of that documentary, Kevin MacDonald. He even said that Rita was bluffing. She wasn't telling the full truth.
You could tell, but
You can
that's
tell,
also
innit?
you can tell, but that's also part of the polygamous conversation that a lot of people say is in man's nature. But what are you doing on the other side? Are you creating an imbalance on the other side? Because if you are, it's going to manifest somewhere. Right? The feminine principle is not just going to absorb all the hurt, all the pain, all the tears, all the toxicity, or everything you put on her, and it's not going to show up. You understand what I'm saying? So at the end of his life, to me, at the end of his life, that's what he said to his mother, it's like you still look for her to blame. And that is kind of a scapegoat mentality where I'm going to put everything on the woman, and then she's supposed to smile and nod and ask me what kind of dumpling we want tonight. You know what I mean? That kind of thing is the man-woman thing that we really need to look at if we're going to be healthy moving forward. That's just my thought. But yeah, go ahead.
And I also feel like that's like a coping how do you say that?
Mechanism.
Yeah,
no
it's a
problem.
coping thing for her. And I think she does that in public just so like people don't see her sweat, but also like people not to see her pain. Why does she want to relive things from like 40 years ago?
But it also, if she doesn't process it, the reality is when I'm looking at that, because Rita's pain was Sedella's pain. Pain continues to travel through the generations until it gets, transmuted. And so Rita's issue and her experience to a certain degree is the abandonment that Sedella felt, Rita felt. You understand what I'm saying? And then it went down to another generation again.
So,
and when you look at, go ahead.
Someone in the comments said, while reading her book, I felt like she wasn't telling us everything as well.
No, she wasn't. You can directly see she was holding it back.
100%.
100%. She was kind of glossing it over. It's when I read Sedella, I went to Sedella. I was like, wait a minute. Then I went back to Rita. I was like, Rita, you ain't tell me that happened. You know what I mean? So she wasn't being wholly forthcoming. Yeah.
She doesn't even go too deep in her book about Taki or whatnot. She just keeps it like.
Yeah, but her mother-in-law said that Taki bring a GI ring, and Taki did that sweet her up, and she at one point she didn't care. She was like brazen with it. You know what I mean? Sedella goes in. I mean, I'm like, dang, Sedella.
Sedella goes all the tea, but the thing is,
she go in.
She did, child. She really
did. I'm glad she wrote the book though, because I think a lot of things, like you said, it could put a lot of things to rest. This conversation needs to be had because it's not only their lives; these are the things that are mirroring in our lives. Oh, nothing wrong with it, and you should do all of these things, and you should accept being wife number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All of this stuff is still happening very much
exactly
today.
And one thing about it is like someone in the comments just said something like what's it called, Cindy was his muse, Cindy contributed to Thingy Bob's career. I think what people are mistaking is a high profile relationship, because she wasn't the only one. There's so many others, but why don't we hear about them?
He had a lot of muses.
So many, like Bob had
a lot of
women,
muses.
But they think in their minds it was just Rita and Cindy. No, there was many in between.
Yeah. He had a lot of music, because like when I'm reading I keep calling him Rowan, Kimani Mali's book, and he says that his mother's minding her business, playing her table tennis. and Bob Marley comes to the event, and you went out of your way, right, to try to get at this woman. You don't have nowhere to put her. You have no good intentions for her. You go out of your way to try to form a relationship with this woman, to breed her and leave her in Trelawney. I'm not understanding what.
And then in the book, Kimani really goes out to say, like, it was my father that like looked up that like basically hit on my mother first. She wasn't a groupie. Did you read that bit?
Right.
Wants to make it clear she wasn't a groupie.
Right. He was making it clear that he came after her. Correct. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and also in the book, and you know one thing I really find very, very like, why I have to separate the artist and the man. I respect Bob as an artist and a musician. As a man, I have little respect for him. I just don't. I'm sorry. It is what it is.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? He's a regular human being. I don't need to idolize him. So in the book, what I found so odd, and I feel like this was a common thing for him, like Kamani's mother, like, you know, he must have been dating her for a bit because he's the one that came after her, right? But then like Kamani was living in a shack with like 9 other people, and he only has one memory of his dad.
With the slingshot.
What did God do for you when you were alive? When he was alive, sorry. He was, Kamani and his mother were living in a shack with 9 other people.
Yeah, I remember he said that. Yes, so that's what I said. For 5 years.
For 5 years. And he has one memory of his father. Only one, and he says in the book he was with Stephen. Bob was with Stephen, and he came and he lost something. I think they were throwing stuff with a stone. I don't know what it was called.
The slingshot. The father bringing a slingshot from America. Yeah.
That's the only memory he has is with dad. And he was living in the countryside in Falmouth in a shack with 9 people. What did Bob do for you?
You bringing a slingshot, bro? You need to bring a deed for a new house. Like, what's really going on? This year, bring me slingshot.
We really need to digest this man. I feel like Bob was really like a deadbeat to those outside kids. No shade.
Let me know you guys don't
didn't Julian just come out with an interview recently, and he was like, I met my dad backstage, and he gave me a handshake. That was the first handshake. Time I saw him.
He did the Norval. He put the 2 pennies in his hand.
So, like, this is what I mean. Bob was very much a product of his environment. I don't think he really knew what it means to be a father.
And that's the point. I don't think he knew what it means. I don't think Norval knew what it means, to be fair. Like I said, Norval's father, according to the records, died when Norval was 2. I don't know what happens from 2 till he galloped away in the army, but something is happening during that time. Since he was on his horse, something's happening.
Somebody in the comments said, like Norval giving little Bob 2 pennies to rub together.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, he did the Norval. Even if he didn't know the man, he was doing the Norval. He was definitely doing the Norval. Let me see here. Thank you so much. Thank you for your thoughts. Let me see. The link is in the description. What time now, people? It's 9:13 Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, I know some of us are all across the world.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. That's all I wanted to say. I'm Rita over here. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, Rita, like again, you have to give respect where respect due, even though there's a lot of things, I would say on both parts, a lot of things went wrong along the way from what they showed us. However, we wouldn't have this conversation right now had there not been a Rita Marley really at the helm, making sure that they didn't just sell him off, for a bag of rice. You know what I mean? They didn't just give him image, give away the rights. If it wasn't for people who were fighting for the actual integrity of what it is they were trying to do, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
And another thing is, if Rita did not really push that legacy forward in terms of branding and imagery, Bob would have been like a Peter Tosh or a Dennis
He would have
Brown.
been like correct. That's a fact.
So like people don't understand the hard work she put in. Like she could have just been living off his royalties for the rest of her life. She didn't need to put his face on every t-shirt around the world or every coffee mug or whatever. Do you know what I mean? She really put in work. People don't understand the sacrifice she made. She spent her entire life basically just pushing his music, his image, everything, his likeness, everything forward. Or else he could have been a Dennis Brown or a Peter Tosh or a Bunny Wailer. Yeah, they're legends, but do we listen? Do we hear their music? Do we see their faces on every t-shirt around the world?
No, yeah, that's definitely instrumental.
So like, what are you doing? But then for some reason, she gets this disrespect. Like people are so quick to say, yeah, but so and so, but Cindy helped him get in the papers.
He
calling
wouldn't
him
have been in
beast.
the paper if they
Please.
wasn't to that. Again, like you guys are saying, I think there's a lot of things at play. We got to remember where it is. It's British West Indies. It's the Caribbean. There's still classism. There's still colorism. There's still a lot of things that are at play in this conversation. It's not taking place in a vacuum or in a bubble. It's like who will present better to the broader society. Because I was literally just watching a Chris Blackwell documentary of Island Records, period. Not just Bob Marley at Island Records, and where they were at the time, right? And what would be marketable. And a Cindy Breakspeare and a half-white European Bob Marley would be more marketable than him sitting here with his Afrocentric wife. At that time, they wanted to take
Do
it to
you
a market.
think that maybe Bob denied her maybe in public because of that as well?
Yeah, because there's a part in the book where she says he first goes to Delaware, and does he first go to Delaware? Not the baby feeding, the titty part. It's the next part where she goes and picks him up, and he looks at her like, "Make a year look so." Like once he got out and he saw different things, now she was no longer up to par. Why you look like that? She was like, "I've been looking like this." Like what's new? You know what I'm saying? So I think once he got out of Trenchtown and once he got out of there and he was able to see some things, all of a sudden the Norval kicked in.
He contradicted himself, because when he was in Trenchtown with her in Jamaica, he would say to her, "You have to be more Afrocentric and wear your natural hair." But then when he goes to America and he comes back, he's like, "Why are you not dressed up for me? You could have made yourself look up for me.
You could have looked better than that." Yeah. It's the duality. You actually have to remember it's two worlds colliding with him. It's the Afrocentric side that he would have known and been impoverished with and didn't move far, but they had community. That's the part that cultivated him. And then Norval. So he has, usually when we're rejected in certain spaces, we're gonna in some place look for somebody to reject. And to me, from what she gave us, he came to the point where Rita was the person, that side of him that he decided to reject. Because at some point he identified with it, and when it was no longer conducive to where he was trying to go, he rejected it while still using the resources, though. You know what I mean? Come to England.
And then that's the next thing. And then when she tried to move on, because people love to throw this in her face, the whole, but Rita not fair, but Rita this. So when she finally tries to, move on with her life, she finds love in somebody else, and then it's a problem for him.
And that may go to the selfishness that people are speaking of. When that interview that he was doing with the interviewer, I think he was at Hope Road, you can tell it's rules for thee and not for me. You can tell, I can do what I want to do, but you must sit there and take it. That's what I heard. You know what I'm saying? So there are some people that, and again, I gave a biblical story because we saw this. I don't think remember, he's also reading the Bible. And he's getting his justification from what he's reading. David did this. Such and such.
Also, I wanted to tell you something, but I don't know if any of you guys have seen this interview. I think you might have, but it was with Abuna, the guy that baptized him.
Right, the priest.
I think his name's Archbishop Abuna. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I don't want to butcher that. But in the interview, he was very close to Bob and Rita, and he baptized Bob just a few months before he passed. Right. And he was like, I had a lot of conversations with him that I didn't like, particularly Bob having a lot of women. And he said to him, Bob, he reasoned with him, like, why are you doing this? If you want to follow the laws of His Majesty only had one woman, one queen, one empress. And then Bob, he was like, and then he said, some people were in Bob's ear advising him that he was in like Solomon or King David or someone was in his blood. But then he was like, but he kept telling him, no, His Majesty had one woman, one wife. So you just live with one woman. And he was like, Bob was, trying to understand that. This was during the later years of his life. Right. I don't know if he would have understood that, but you know what I'm saying?
No, really. Like again, like you're saying, it's there in the culture. It's there in his family. It's there in the Bible that he's reading. And if he's inclined towards it, I mean, King Solomon, justification all day, 1,000 women, run that. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, that's why he says he's entitled to all the queens. But the difference between him and King Solomon had resources at that time. And these women were They were only wives in title. You know what I mean? He couldn't get to them in 3 years' time if he visited one a year. You know what I mean? So that, I think that was also showing to, I don't want to call it the immaturity, but the beginning stages of him even coming into Rasta for himself. I said it last week, that we're watching him kind of grow up. He was only 36. How much of us at 36 or 25, or if someone had stuck a microphone in our faces at that age, what were we talking about? You know what I mean?
I was reading an interview with his daughter Sedella, and she even said that, like, she was like, my dad was still very immature when he died. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
He
yeah.
was young. He was 36.
Yeah.
We don't know
He's
what he
young.
would have
You don't know what he would have
grown.
grown into. We don't know, because he was cut down short. So, like I said, 21 years old, 28 years old, somebody put a microphone and you have all the philosophies of life figured out. You don't. It's a
Fame,
growing
money, women
process.
throwing themselves at you. It's not an easy thing.
But definitely he could have, to control. It says a man that can control himself, govern his spirit, is better than somebody who could take a strong city, right? And so he did not learn yet to government over the self, over the body, over the flesh. Because indulging in all of these different fronts, I'm using it politically correct, right? He's also taking in all of these spirits. But it looks like he was intentionally going to breed all of these different women, but no real long-term plans.
It seemed like he would breed them and leave them.
Breed them and leave them. Once they breed, he got to find somebody else. Like I said, and according to Esther Anderson,
and that's from the Norval thing, 100%.
That's Norval. That's Norval, because his father breeder, he was like, "Oh, Sedella, no more, Megan, no." Like, wait, you didn't have you had Bosun before you breeded her. Now you got hernia, sir. When you was riding on the horse looking for her, you ain't have hernia? Yeah, okay. Norval is funny. That's an interesting guy, man. That's an interesting guy. But thank you so much, Nasima. Thank you for coming up.
But thank you. I really enjoyed that. And I love your videos, by the way.
Thank you.
I like the neutral devil's advocate approach you take on things. It's dope.
Yeah, give thanks. Because it's all about learning, growing, thinking, having conversations. So it's a beautiful thing. Y'all comments have me cracking up, man. Not lie. Y'all are funny. All right. For those who just joined us, welcome to the conversation. Let me know if anybody has anything else to say. Anybody have anything else to say? Hold on 1 second. Let me check. If not, 9:22. We 1 hour, almost 30 minutes in. Let's see here. Yeah, I saw that he soft-hearted. We are not individuals, humans. We as humans have different facets to us, right? We have different elements to us. You can be equally soft-hearted towards children because you identify when you were a child over at Miss Gray house, running to the ready to go buy charcoal, and you can be equally, if you're a male or a female, have a mother wound, right? And you feel that you can't trust or connect with women because ultimately they're gonna hurt you and leave you like your mama did. Like, stay tuned, because when we get to the Toddy situation, Toddy, when we get to Bunny Wailer's situation, Bob Marley is witnessing all of this. And that's what's going to be coming up in a few readings, is that when you get to the Bunny Wailer situation and his father, Bob Marley is watching his mother Sedella go through a violent relationship. So he's taking in all of those things. And plus, what are the people saying to him when his father's not around? When he's in 9 Miles? Like, what is that conversation? What is he internalizing as a child? How is he feeling? Yeah, he did have the 3. That's what they said now. That's what they said, that he was over there knocking up the sisters. And I don't know. He said that the grandfather, or they said the grandfather was into the Bible. In the Torah, you're not supposed to lay with a sister against her other sister in her lifetime. So I think he skipped over that part real quick. He was like, "Ooh, don't lie with sisters. Just skip to that." He skipped right on over it, like Rachel and Leah, because you're not supposed to lie with sisters in the lifetime. But Omariah did not get that memo, and he was with 3 of them. What's going on? Long time no hear. Jerry said Esther blocked traffic. Esther said, "You not breed and left me, Esther was a superstar. She was a superstar, but she was a movie star. Esther was like, "Nah, not today." T Gold, T Gold says the man did love woman. That's not love. If you love something, you take care of them. If you love something, you stay with them. If you love something, you cultivate it. You don't leave the thing that you love to just wail in the breeze and try to find out how they're gonna make life as you continue to populate the earth, and then just leave them to take care of the stuff. I mean, I don't know what kind of love that's an interesting kind of love. Rashida said Esther overstated their influence. I don't know. She was like, she was there. She was feeding him lines. Esther said she should have writing credits on I Shot the Sheriff. That's what I heard to the ghetto grapevine. Yeah, Esther worked at Island. She was the one who came, and she said she shot the first photos of him. The video, y'all have to see that video. There's one troubling thing in this video that I saw that I don't even like to look directly into it. And I'm going to come and we're going to talk about that, because that little thing I saw in that documentary, it was spiritual, but it was unsettling. Okay. So I don't want to jump all over the place with the serial breed. Yo, man, I forgot sleep. Yo, why? I just said he's a serial breeder, Joe. Wanna be able to self, not the serial breeder. Rita did receive the bad treatment. She did. And that's something that, if you don't process it, and then you have to show up even after the person has passed, and you're showing up each and every time. It's kind of the same way Sedella, when was asked, oh, he wasn't a bad person, but he did terrible things to you. He made you feel all kind of way. He abducted your son and dropped him off at the random old lady. But I don't know. We have T in the building. If anybody else want to come up, let me know now. I'm going to bring T up. Welcome to the conversation.
Hi there. I just want to say this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bob Marley gave Damian Marley to Stephen Marley as a present. They work so good together. My grandmother told me we cannot decide who is to be born. So him having all these children, we cannot decide. It looked bad, saying cheat on his wife and everything, but I think his wife, even when they're saying, oh, he didn't leave this for her, I think he intentionally did, because Chris Blackwell is very powerful and he could have divorced her. And he never did it. So I think he intentionally left the things for her because he knew what she would have done with it.
But if that be the case, why did they fight for so long?
It's in Jamaican law, because they added now your outside children have to be added, right, and everybody have to be on the same page. So you have to fight regardless. Even if it wasn't her, if you have any kind of land or inheritance, you have to be on the same page. The court has to, or the court decides. But he was only 36, and I don't think this takes anything away from him, because I don't think he can decide who is to be born, right? And he said hell is on earth, and I guess him go through his hell.
But to a certain degree, he transferred it as well. Like I saw Damian Marley, what they put him young son up, right? And everybody have it all over social media. This young guy is stepping into the same thing that his father stepped into, same thing that his grandfather stepped into, right? But with that, we're like, oh, Damian Marley, look at something. Now, Damian, who put him Pitney up there?
Yeah, him.
Yeah, it was him, right? Okay, good. So he inherited this. And in the same way they inherit the music and that ability, they inherit all of this stuff. So I think it's a double-edged sword that we often times aggrandize the musical talents, but the things that they suffer in private, much like this, we turn a blind eye to it because it's entertaining us, right? But as on a human level, I think it robs us from the opportunity to learn and grow, because we pretend that it's not that important. That's just my thoughts, but go ahead.
I think they're good fathers, though. Like, they're more around their children, maybe because of
how they experience.
Yes, because even I know people say it's black men, but it's not black. In Jamaica before, people don't understand that it was like a white colony. There were so many white men there, and they left their children in some instances, or took them from their parents. And I'm aware of this from both sides. So when people say black, like, oh, it's because them black. No,
Mm-hmm.
this happened on my paternal grandmother's side and maternal grandfather's side. So this is something that happens. It's not black men. It's
Yes.
because of the time with colorism and racism, and they
Right.
took the child or they left the child, right? So
Right.
you
So you think Nova was trying to just take the child, but he was trying to finesse the child away by telling lie?
my fees them just worthless. And me not think him only have. I don't think he only has one child, and I don't think he
No,
has
he has
only two
others. Because
wives.
no,
Yeah,
no, have one picnic. No. They came in the documentary. They have two half siblings, Constance and the son, Norval half child that he breed this lady from wherever he
my
breed her.
fees they have more than that, but because I'm age,
True.
yeah, we're not gonna find that out. But because
No,
it's more
one picnic
common,
one of them.
yeah, yeah, them probably not even know them father. Or that may I tell you.
My
Yes,
goodness.
and then just leave them, and you um people must read on Jamaica's history. Like it was the people that migrate back to different places after they get their inheritance. Some of
Right.
them move go New York. Some
Right.
of
Right.
them,
That's true.
if you
That's
do
true.
your thing, what's it called, like ancestry and stuff.
Yeah.
And then if you know of any family member, you'll see it. It's
That's
very
true.
common if you have, especially Saint Anne and Clarendon on that border.
Yeah.
So they leave a lot of people there, like a lot of children,
I
right?
mean, like I said, with doing my research, I grew up and know my grandfather. They migrated to America, and the only thing I knew about it, I thought my great grandmother was Panamanian, because
Mm-hmm.
all they said was Panama. That's all we got. We got like
Mm-hmm.
little
Right.
fragments.
Mm-hmm.
When we come and look, digging years and years and years, come to find out she left Jamaica for
Right.
Panama,
Uh-huh.
but just never came back. So she have a whole set of children in Panama, and my grandfather was her first child, was left behind. You know what I mean? So he didn't know his mother or his father. His father came to Harlem and his mother went to Panama. So I know firsthand that it can happen. And he didn't, we didn't know what happened. That there was a whole side of family that was missing,
Very
so
common.
yeah, it was very common during that time. But it caused a lot of splintering. It caused a lot of fracturing, a lot of fables like me here say, but you don't really know what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
you take a child like from the father white. He took,
mhm.
like, I've more than one occasion. If it's a boy, them take them like 4 years old from
Well,
their
no, I've been
mother.
a couple.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I don't think we can blame anybody for anything. He just never understand. And the other part where people say, "Oh yeah, the other lady is this lady." I'm not talking anything bad about any woman because I don't know anything. But
Hmm.
there was other ladies going there as well. It's not just them.
No, for real, the man,
Yeah,
a
there was
girl
other
farm.
ladies visiting him.
Bob had a girl farm. Bob said no girl and girl in a bungle. Girl farm.
But auntie said, "Bob Ball is sexy." I said, "Me don't know."
Yo,
But
girl, Bob was a girl wrangler. What?
yeah, them say if you see him,
Merciful
them
Father.
say him not that tall, but him sexy. So me say, okay, me get it.
Yo, it's not funny. Listen, I try to be respectful because we on the internet. So even his grandchildren, anybody could be watching. So I'm not
Yeah.
really, yeah, we being respectful, but bro, Pops was out there doing the
But
most.
him give us a gift, so some things we can forgive. We cannot judge anybody. We're not God.
Right, right.
I know that sounds cliche, but like him really give us like everybody, like him give us a gift. We're only human beings, so maybe him just never understand.
I don't think
So
he
just
fully understood. I think
yeah.
for many people, and even in America, like during the Motown record time, like there were people who just saw, and even earlier than that, in the early 1900s, music was a way out of poverty, a way out of the situation that they were in. I think it began because we see where his career began and where it went to. So as he continued to grow as a person, you saw his music change, but eventually he saw it as a way out. right? How am I going to get out of this position that I'm in? And that's the course that it took, right? So through that, we're hearing all of the lyrics and all of the feelings, because according to his wife, whatever he felt, he wrote it in a song. And so we can see that transitions that he was going through, and he didn't really fully come to enlightenment, I don't think. So even some of the stuff you may listen to, it's for a time. It's where you are at that moment. You know what I mean? In time that we identify with it. But definitely, the give thanks for talk coming up and sharing your
Yeah,
thoughts.
good night. Bye.
Good night, good night, good night. All right, everybody. People just hate on Sydney because what no? Because age is white. Um, I mean, I think there's a number of reasons why Sydney's behavior among other people's, Cindy, I don't know why I could be calling her Sydney. Among other things, her behavior is just a bit more forward than the other women, which rubs a lot of people the wrong way. It's like her behavior is insult to injury. And like I said, I think Bob put a battery in all of these women back to disrespect his wife, and therefore they felt comfortable disrespecting his wife, right? And so some people may say, you know what, it's not disrespect, but it kind of is. It kind of, even if she was just a wife in paperwork, she was just way too comfortable. And like I said, she has a whole husband, and you over there naming off all your escapade places. It just gives weird. It just gives a little weird. I just think it doesn't come across. It may not be how she wants it presented, or maybe it is. I don't know. But I've watched a few interviews with Cindy, and on more than one occasion, I've heard her use the term jealous. Like when a younger girl ran Miss World, and she was like, I don't know if she was joking, but when there's a joke, there's also some truth in there. And she was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna say I wasn't jealous." So she may have a jealous spirit. I've heard her use the term more than one time, right? So we caping for somebody, we wasn't there, but she may have felt like, "Oh, I'm gonna knock her out the spot. I'm really the queen." And that may rub people the wrong way, and she may have felt a bit indifferent. I'm not talking for her, that she didn't get to that spot of queendom, right? The king and the queen sit on the throne. A lot of people had children for him. Even the lady Yvette later on in the book had the last child, Makita, for him. He didn't stop at Cindy. He didn't stop at Cindy. So let me just see the last of these comments here, and then we're going to wind on down. And most I willing, we'll pick it up on something that I kind of wanted to bring up that's kind of foreshadowing what happens to him at the end of his life, an injury that he got that his mother speaks about when he was a young boy. Because sometimes we don't see the indication, something that's indicating what's to come, because hindsight is 2020, right? Okay, Naja says women should do, I know. Oh, yeah. So let me see. Did I speak about polygyny or polygamy? Yep. History, yes, and karma. Women should respect other women's marriages. Like it's one thing if you didn't know that he was married, but once you find out, they was already in there. They was probably like, Shh, that's his sister. If he gonna say that's his sister, then I'm with that. It says here, I disagree. Okay, we gotta disagree. Disagreement is healthy as long as we're respectful. So make we see the disagreement now. Any woman who opens backside, well, I remember sense that one. Open them foot to somebody husband is wrong. If this was there, they would be clear as dizzy and confused. Didn't say this is okay. Yeah, I mean the excessiveness of polygyny. I have a whole playlist on polygyny. It's more research oriented, not so much joke. But I've looked at polygamy and polygyny in different contexts, from Rasta to Mormon to Africa to research papers. Like I was really intrigued because of what people kept saying was the natural inclination to the biblical times. And there is something that happens in this relationship. Not saying monogamy is a perfect because the people in it is what make or break the relationship, but there's an added component, the added complexity to the polygamous relationship that is easily thrown off. People like, yeah, because there's more women to men. It's easily thrown off. And what we're doing in many instances is massaging the brain to accept certain things that naturally it feels off. And that's why people have to compensate in different cultures so that it doesn't go left. And more often than not, it goes left, right? Because of the natural inclination of women versus the natural inclination of men. I don't know. Rowan there right now. Rowan all over the place. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not over there seeing what's up with the likes, so hopefully y'all have the likes up and the shares and all that stuff. Bob picked up Rita and slammed her when he was smoking. Whoa, somebody said that? I don't know. Is that somewhere? I don't know. Again, his mother said he was violent. He did have to box up him and them when them get too chatty. That's what his mom said. Rita said that they fought, and even Ziggy said he's seen his parents fight. Is this good modeling for children? Absolutely not. So again, there was definitely some emotional immaturity amongst the both of them because they were both fighting. Yep, I agree. They didn't have the maturity to answer the to deal with their issues. Anybody else want to come up before I wind down? Yeah, she it says those who endure to the end. The chief said Rita endured to the end. She sure did. She sure did. She was like, I bet you I'll outrun all of y'all, the tortoise or the hare. She wanted to give them next to nothing. The way that Rita, and this is what I'm reading now, is not to discount anyone's story. I did read Kimani's book, and this is what he's speaking to. I don't know if this is during the time when they're fighting over the estate. Again, Rita did not go out and breed all these people. I'm not saying that the children should not have been taken care of, but how are we going to skip over the confusion and the history of who caused all this confusion and didn't set it in order? And then expecting other people to come and clean up the mess that I want all of the woman them. Okay, when you wanted all of them, at least Solomon was building houses for them to go into. Like, come on now. Some of the onus has to go on the person who created the woman, the girl, them, and Bob Marley. These are the ones who created these situations, right? Even if they were, they heard to the grapevine. Let me see here. Let me see here. Any more things? I'm a little bit late on this thing here, so I'm just coming through. I mean, it's not hard to see if Sadella is his child. Just do a DNA test. I don't think. I think Rita step off enough time. I don't know. We only have one, because if they said she wasn't using birth control, we only have one instance while he was alive that she did. I mean, the man put the woman. I'm not giving her no pass, but let's be honest. The pressure what he put her under, he opened the door for Taki to slide on in. Secondly, Bob did the same thing. We're talking about karma. Bob did the same thing to Rita's first baby father. Bob came in the door and slammed it behind himself, told her to forget about that dude, stop talking to him, according to Rita. Right? So he did the same thing. So Taki is a manifestation of karma. Like in Bob's case, he looks like he got what he put out, it came back to him quickly. Okay, Chief is over here telling somebody to separate the man from the message and the life much match up. And this is what I was talking about the dissonance, and how if we're not going to be perfect, because then people will say like, oh, if I'm not perfect, I can't speak. But if there's this vast difference between what you're saying and what you're doing, then the message is for you first. I always like to say that if somebody sells soap but them never yet use it, the soap is for you first. Like, stop trying to give people soap and you don't use soap. Stop trying to be out here telling people to drink water and you don't drink water. Like, the message goes further, and when you are actually embodying that message, when you now become what you speak of. Shout out to you, Libertad. It's the best channel ever. Give thanks. T Gore said, they love Rita. I didn't realize how faction this reader. If you guys came on one of them first videos, like I got it in one night, I did the video and I woke up. I'm like, where did all these people come from? I didn't know that there was this big of a riff, a Rita Cindy riff. I didn't know that. I was just reading the book and wanted to share. So I kind of stumbled into this space by just wanting to share what I was seeing. But then I came here like, wow, there's a lot of static between the two to this day. Let's see here. Let's see. You think, let me see. We wouldn't. I'm gonna drop the link one more time and then I'm gonna wind down. Peoples. I like to read in the day because I have more energy and more jokes in the day. So I'm gonna set it up for tomorrow. Let me see. We wouldn't be talking about Barbara. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's still bright privilege. People do tend to give a pass, and that's called partiality and judgment. It shouldn't matter who it is, gifted, bright, or not. It one law. It shouldn't be partiality and judgment because you like the person. So if a person is doing wrong, they're doing wrong, and our person do right, them do right. And I think in this situation, we're seeing that people get a pass because of who they are and not what they've done or didn't do. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that he lost his eldest son, and that was sad. That was definitely sad to hear. We're also learning here that I think it was asthma, they said. There's also, I saw on another note, Peter Morgan recently passed. Device, we have somebody who just came up, but it says the device is not connected. And, you know, it speaks to another thing that we have to look into is to make sure that we mentally, physically, emotionally take care of ourselves, right? As we're going through this thing called life. You understand? I'm not sure. Is that your name? Whoever's coming up, I don't see a name. I'm going to ask that you let us know who you are. I'm going to bring you to the stage. Welcome to the conversation. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I don't know how far you are now, but at the part where I was watching when it was talking about Bob Marley and the generational curses,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. What I
Yeah,
think, right?
go ahead.
I think that Bob Marley was born for a purpose. He was born to open a portal as a messenger for God.
Mm-hmm.
But on his journey, he encountered a lot of hurt because of the generation before him.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is that yes, he fulfilled the purpose to spread the message to the people of love and but in the
Right.
part where you say he was spreading the message, but he wasn't doing the action, is because he didn't get any healing. So
Mm.
he moved from woman to woman, searching for something in them. And he being a narcissist, not even knowing that he is because of all this hurt. Right? So what happened is that he came, he fulfilled his purpose, but he didn't get a chance to heal.
True.
That's my thought, my views.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thanks.
much. Yeah, and I think the caller made a good point. That healing, that's my name, Soul Therapy on the channel, right? So I'm all about healing, and like she said, I agree. You can come here and then get cluttered. You have a mission. That's what everybody's seeing. But like she's saying, you come here through a certain vessel, so you kind of get wrapped up in all of the things. So it's kind of like your mission plus all of the things that are upon you topically. And so, yeah, you delivered what you're supposed to the people, but as for your own soul journey, you didn't get a chance to process this. So when his mother says at the end of his life, he's reflecting on certain things, but he's in so much pain. Pain is a teacher. When we come to earth, pain is a teacher. It lets us know that something is wrong, something is awry. So this pain that it manifested in his body, even though it was painful, is teaching him something. Now, whether or not he had the full opportunity to learn that what it was, we don't know. It's interesting to see that on his way home, that he didn't go home, right? He felt like he had to run away from home. And this is why he went into self-exile into England, but he didn't make it back home. So the journey was cut short. I'm not able to find why his grandfather came to Jamaica. His grandfather picked up from England. He was one of seven, right? And he came all the way to Jamaica. And then when he came, he said, call me Robert instead of Albert. I thought it was interesting. So I think that there's a connection between the grandfather leaving England for whatever reason and Bob finding his way back to England at the latter part of his life. What that is, I don't know. I'm going to give y'all one more thing and then I'm going to wrap up. Y'all know I'm going to show y'all the receipts. But do you know about 4 of Bob Marley's relatives, male relatives, died in February, including Bob Marley himself? I'll just leave that there. When I study these things, there's no coincidence, right? There's too many that's lining up. About 4 of them, including Norval, dies in the month of February. And one of the markers for when we're trying to find out what tragic thing happened in our life or in our foreparents' life, it's something that keeps hitting the same point, same point, same point. And you're like, why does this thing keep showing up? It's an indication that something in and around this is like playing hot and cold. But y'all know I'm going to come with that evidence. But when I was doing the research, I'm like, why are all of these people dying in February? Including the grandfather that came from England. Coincidence? I think not. I don't know what happened, but something did. Let's see here. Yeah, he let his children and wife fight over it. You saw how Sadella ran up on the old lady, was like, yo, where the money there? And the lady was like, oh, me I plead. So, his mother had to do it. And I guess he didn't care that much. He'd be like, yo, let them do what they have to do. Let me see. And lastly, I appreciate all your calls and all your thoughts. What is my grandfather do the same thing to my granny? He was white and him have 2 different women and him take me daddy before him 6. Wow. So it's that's what I was saying. Also, one more thing. I didn't get the fullness on the Bloomfield, Ellen Ann Bloomfield. Somebody was like, it said colored. It did say colored. I did not accentuate it because what I learned about studying the paperwork from that time, you have to you can't compare it to America. America colored was colored, but in the Caribbean, you had different, especially if it's British, West Indies, whatever, you had colored, you had brown, they had different classifications. But what I did realize is that Bloomfield is a Jewish last name. So I'm not saying she was Jewish. I'm saying that's a Jewish last name. So the mother of Norval, the jury is out on that. The jury is out on that. I can't with the chief. Black men are players and black women are player lovers. Help me now. What do you say about that? What does players mean? Because player means somebody when not serious. So what do you what do you mean right there? I'm still on. Wait a minute. This is not gossip. You're welcome. It is not. It's not gossip. It's history. One of the things that I've always been an advocate for, and even if you go to Open Book Media, I have a free class that I have put together because I'm really passionate about us telling our own stories. If you don't tell your own story, you're going to leave someone else to do it, or you're going to be forgotten to the annals of history, right? You're going to be forgotten in time because you don't think your story is worth putting down. I think everybody's story has some value in it. And until we get back to storytelling and sharing the lessons that we learned, we won't have to repeat certain things if we get these cautionary tales that we no longer say because we're afraid to talk about it, right? So if you go over Open Book Media, as a matter of fact, let me go over there and there is a free course that I put together years ago, because some people will be like, oh, I want to write a book, but I don't know where to start, right? So this is a free course of telling you how and where to start. If you want to just jot your story down, it doesn't have to be a big elaborate thing, but it's something that can definitely help you along the way. So that's that. Yeah, no name call in the comments. I'm not even, yeah, definitely. If you guys are able to let me know, yeah, we have to keep it respectful. One other thing over here, to keep the conversation flowing, we have to learn to establish respect. So we could disagree, but no name calling. If that's what's going on, I didn't see all that. What might be seen as negative might still be truthful. That's an absolute fact, Trish. And this is what a lot of us, because we go through so much and our foreparents have been through so much, we're hyper protective. Oh, stop talk because that's negative. No, sometimes we need to assess the things that we see are negative so that we can process them and move through. If we hide them and cover them up and act as if they don't exist, they don't go away. They just come back to the next generation. That's exactly what they do. Yo, what to Jerry? Jerry says skill called Vex I'm not in the movie. Skill calls about who wanna movie, but not movie. Oh, you mean? Oh, that was funny. That was funny. Ah, boy. Yeah, yeah. I ain't put some. Yeah, colorism still exists, not only in Jamaica. If you look at some of these, even the bleaching documentaries in Africa, even you see bleaching epidemic in India, you see bleaching epidemic in Asia. It's not just in, it is this mentality that has happened throughout the earth, a great brainwashing, a great whitewashing of history. And so when you see all of these powerful people within history and they no longer have their melanin, and we see places and people that look like they have the power, then you're going to want to be associated with those who you feel can empower you. And so even when you watch certain things, it's like, huh? How did they become Europeans? And so it's not just in one culture. Even in India, if you're too dark, then you're of a lower caste. And if you're a lighter Indian, then you can get married. I've seen it in Korea and all of these different Asian places where they have that same mentality that you can't be dark or you're not going to progress in life. Side chicks play a role. They are karmics. Please expound. Please expound. That's interesting. Holographic husbands and karmic side chicks. That sounds like the title of a different show right there. I don't. Yeah, there's a possibility he didn't have genuine friends after a certain point. There's a possibility that people were in it for whatever they were in it for. Yeah, I think he does have a knowledge about him, but if he wanted to share about him, why would he wait till now? Like, this book was written, I think the first copy was written in 96. Rita's book was written earlier. Kimani Mook was written earlier. You're going to wait till now to write a book? Don Taylor book was written now. Like, no, man, you got something that I want to write. I want that book. Like, now? Like, why didn't you write it before? So if you wanted to really set the record straight. And you know what, the strong woman is also one of the first book I wrote. Let me see what one of the first book, where am I right there? One of the first book I wrote was The Angry Black Woman, and it was looking at this, and it's a nonfiction, but it's looking at the stereotypes of the strong woman, the angry black woman, and how through slavery, this representation of the African woman, that she has to be so strong under all of the stresses of slavery, womanhood, economy, and all of those things. After a while, it's tiring. So the fact that she had to be all of that and come through all of that and still be here to stand and take what she's taking, uh, we need to look at the system. We need to look at the system. I'm not saying that women are not supposed to be strong, but if she has to be fighting against the husband, the counterpart who she's supposed to be working together with, then that's problematic. Oh, okay. I see the person who, I'm not sure, but we got to watch the language in the chat for me there. Stephanie said there's gaps and hole in Rita's book. Yeah, she glosses over some stuff. She does. I'm not sure that he paid for Cindy to do the pageant, according to what I read or saw, but he encouraged her. And that's another thing. I said it before. How did a Rastaman encourage his girlfriend? He couldn't be seen with his wife publicly, but he could be seen with his girlfriend publicly. And how would a real, authentic Rastaman at that time want his woman to be in a beauty pageant wearing, what do you call it? Swimsuit on a world stage? That was curious. I'll just leave it at that. All right, everybody. So with that said, okay, I'm just going through some of the stuff that I missed. Let me go all the way to the bottom here. What's up? What's up, everybody? Anybody else? Taki Lucky. I can't. No, Rita, she did leave some stuff. I think Rita definitely left some stuff to the imagination. Yeah, that's the Norval in him, man. Anytime we see him doing some wild stuff. So with that said, everybody, if anybody else has anything to say, if not, I'm gonna go ahead. Sorry, I can't get to all the comments. It's definitely getting us talking, and hopefully we're having conversations that lead to some healing. Took away the kingdom of Israel. Okay, this is a comment about, I must have missed this one. But yeah, this is a comment about, right, this is a comment about the karma, or what happens after you do the act. A lot of times people like to talk about such and such did such and such, but they don't look at what happens after you did it, right? So Solomon did what he did, but what did he open up to? The wisest thing he did was ask for wisdom. When he was younger, he was wiser than when he was older, right? Because he knew that he didn't have the capacity to rule the kingdom. But once he got to where he was going, he started taking foreign women, worshiping, building places of worship for their deities, and he fell behind these women. He fell behind these women. And I'm gonna do a trivia question. Out of all the women that Solomon had, how many children did Solomon have? How many children did Solomon have after he had 300 wives and 700 concubines? How many women is on record that Solomon had? Questions. Let's see. Wait. Okay, I didn't see this one, but let me read it. When Diane Jobson asked Bob why he was sleeping with party girls and not dating Rasta women, he reprimanded her, saying, if she loved me, she must love her too. Oh, I didn't. Was that an interview? I didn't see that one. Is that an interview? Okay, Nadine says, I think Bob was not very knowledgeable about how to treat women. He might have been knowledgeable about fiction, poetry, but seemed not to have a proper guidance. And that was evident. I would have to agree that was evident. He didn't have the best example. Yeah, right. He was indulging way too much. And Solomon, the same one who had all those women, he told you to remember the wife of your youth, right? And so I don't think Bob was over there reading the Proverbs, because Solomon could have told you in the booklet of Ecclesiastes, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. Okay. So he went through all of that and he did all of that. And he said at the end of the day, I said this before, excessive sexual activity for the male, there is a connection with that and prostate enlargement. I'll just leave it right there. Overuse of the prostate gland. Okay, I'll leave that one right there. The three sisters, she gives the name of the three sisters. I read the three sisters' name, but I don't have their last name. She says she want to track down the three sisters. I don't have the last name of the three sisters. I only have their first names. Yeah, Esther's documentary was very telling. Nick Cannon out here trying to do the same thing. Rita, all right, I agree. She have enough time. She can't get therapy. She have enough time for process, and she have time right now for process where she need for process. I agree. All right, everybody. I mean, people gonna do what people gonna do. You know what I mean? People are gonna do, and that's, they put it in the public for us to see. And at the end of the day, like I said, for me, it's a learning lesson. It's an opportunity for us to discuss. It's an opportunity just for learn, to see where different people are coming from. Sometimes you get with a partner, you get with a male or you get with a female who are not in agreement with the lifestyle. And a lot of the contention is because people don't agree. Right? So if you see a man with love run road and he love pick up this girl, that girl, don't get with that person, because that's going to be a bad look. It's either you're going to be fighting him to change or he's going to be fighting you to change. Thank you, Fred. I bless. Thank you. Yeah. So we tend to get with people or try to forge these relationships and then try to change people on the back end, and it doesn't work. Right. And because somehow, some way, especially women, you may see the man with all of these women and think, yeah, I'm going to be the one though. Me, I going to be the one for change him. Me, I going to be the one for make him stop. And then when he run through you, you're like, oh, you know what I'm saying? So like you said, accountability is on the female's part as well, because you knew what it was. You knew what it was. You heard the rumors that dude had like 111 children. You knew what it was. Yeah, you don't have to. Right. Winter says she doesn't hate him, but she hates how he treated women, and that's correct. You can say, listen, this person treated. It's okay when it's somebody else, but it's not okay when it becomes your daughter. It's not okay when it becomes your grandchild. You know, it's not okay when it's somebody within your family. And men need to understand. You go out there doing this to other people's children. Oh, when your son pick up a wicked, don't get mad. Oh, pick up a wicked woman. Ask yourself, what was you doing? Were you violating anybody's daughters out here when you were ripping and running? Now your son pick up crosses and y'all one that will do you something. Maybe it's karma. Maybe it's karma. Yo, but our time now, 10:05. Why did they say side chick 101? I'm done. Side chick 101. I mean, a little bit about Cindy, and I try to be objective, as if y'all see. It looks like she also has some type of wounding, because she talks about her parents leaving her at immaculate whatever preparatory school that she went to, and not really feeling connected to anybody, and making her friends be her comfort. But so I think there's some deficit in that area too. I just think there's some deficit in that area. And so a lot of people that he ultimately becomes attracted to, has some type of deficit that he connects with. That's usually how trauma bond works. So with that said, yeah, the palm reading thing, Vinette, I'm gonna come back and have that conversation, because I don't know why, for me, when I'm seeing people talking about it, it's in a good light. I'm trying to figure out, when did the palm reading, when did it get over in the good light section? I mean, I saw that, and I saw more than one person like, you know, somebody could I read palm? And I'm thinking to myself, I not when the palm reading thing was a good thing. Anybody? Like, is that a good thing in the sense of, by what energy was he reading the palms? And in this movie, I can't even hold it no more. In this documentary, one of the things that caught my attention is when he's intrigued by the camera that Esther Anderson is holding. And y'all, if y'all saw the documentary, let me know. And then he says to the camera, as he's doing something very creepily, energetically, spiritually. I'm like, no, Bob, no, man, something wrong yourself. And then he proceeds to say, it's the Obia effect. And I'm like, Obia effect, Bob? Talk to me. What are we talking about here, Bob? I was a bit uncomfortable with that. Let me know if you guys saw that and if y'all felt any way about that. So the palm reading and the Obia effect is something that needs to be explored. I'm going to go down and see if anybody saw anything about that palm reading. Polyamory is more than one love. So maybe he was polyamorous and polygynous, but he didn't believe in the woman them. He said, no, I'm not believing that woman must know who them baby father. I think he was daggering. I think he was daggering Rita at that time. Because he was mad at the report. He said, no, don't play them with them. No, I mean, not that. And in some instances, I'm not lying, his voice reminds me of my father's voice. Like some of the inferences, some of the way he speaks, I sometimes I gotta laugh when I'm listening to Bob speak, because that's how my Bob's be speaking. Go to the next chapter. Yep, we're gonna do the next chapter. I mean, she went to high school, and I think Cindy has questionable social intelligence. It may be, like I said, there may be something going on with her. She's older now. All of these people are older, and they came from a different time. She said, according to her interview, there wasn't any money or resources for her to go to university. And this is when she starts entering into these contests, because she's wondering how the thing I go, right? And so this is where I guess she put all her eggs in this basket, and then she's on a whirlwind. So I think there's something going on over there, why she is holding on to 1976 the way she's holding it on. So if we could give her any grace in this area, it may be that she also comes with some baggage. And it may be beyond just the colorism thing. It may be an emotional thing. I'm just saying. And this is also true, that in the old days, women were more financially dependent on men for survival. So when their husbands died, they would marry again. And that's how probably, I mean, the polygamous practices in different cultures, it started for different reasons, depending on the culture. Usually men going to war, dying. The Bible has a stipulation that If the brother dies without any child, then you have to, the other brother, the younger brother, has to marry his widow and bring forth a child in his brother's name. So there are different social spaces where this polygynist thought now weaves his way in. But what was going on then? That wasn't no polygyny, bro. He wasn't marrying them people. He was here, there, and everywhere. Let's see. Bob's first tune was "Judge Not." Yeah, whatever was going on in his mind, and again, his first tune, I think his mother leaves, and he's in this space where they got him like Miss Gray at the house. I don't want to jump ahead, but Bunny Toddy, which is Bunny Wailer father, and the baby mother, or not the baby mother, the wife, it was upset. I'm just give a preview. The wife was upset, which is because Sidi is a Métis in this situation. So she goes from being the wife to a widow to a Métis. And Bob is in this situation where his mother is a Métis. And when she leaves, they start treating Bob like how Miss Gray had Bob, like that boy there. I'm gonna just leave it there. So I mean, that may be the headspace that he's in when he goes into this song. Solomon did trick Queen of Sheba. That's what they say. That's what they say. Giving her salty stuff, talking about don't drink nothing. He was tricking her for the feel up. He was tricking her for the feel up. Chaos and contention. Yeah, you have to look at what comes as a result of the practice. Anything, even in our life. If we see something is chaotic, it's all over the place, we got to ask ourselves, okay, what am I putting in here? It's like cooking. If it's salty, if it's this and that, you got to ask yourself, okay, what did I put in this pot? So it could taste kind of good, but then it has this back taste to it, and you got to go back and find out what you put in. So yeah, he put in music and he put in the message, and then he put in the woman them and the picnic them and the community D, I go everywhere. And then look at what we have now. Still confusion now 40 years later. Rita didn't cheat. Somebody said Rita didn't cheat. She was just a lonely woman living. I mean, I don't know. It looks cheatish. I mean, it's justification, and then it's what she did. Did she lay with another man when she was still legally married to Bob? The answer would be yes. The reason she did it, it could be abandonment, whatever it is. But did she do it? Or yeah. DeAndre said maybe it's Rita's carbon as well. Nobody escapes. So nobody's put to death for another man's sins, right? So everybody has their portion. She has her portion, he has his portion. So definitely everybody gets what they put in. Okay. Thank you so much. Aki says your show looks ridiculous. You can expound or you can feel free to come up. It's interesting when you get certain feedback because it's very generalized. So again, people are allowed to have their opinion, but that's very general. If you can share your thoughts, or if you don't derive value from it, that's also cool too. The contact number is the link in the box. It's the link right here. So, I get a lot of feedback. I get a lot of good feedback, but then I get some ones that you're like, okay. You understand? We're reading the book, we're having discussions. Oprah has a huge book club, and a lot of people have a huge book club. Where do we go to read our own books about our own culture and have discussions? Where do we go? Where do we go? Help me out. Where do we go? Thank you. I enjoy you being here as well. Okay, Sneak Peek says, do you have something to say? The link is in the box. Why am I up past my bedtime today? I'm up past my bedtime today. Leah, what's going on? I'm up past my bedtime. I'm gonna stay on for just 5 more minutes, and then I'm a boogie. Yeah, man, run up the likes, y'all. Run up the likes. Run up the likes. Stephanie says she was lonely. She was lonely and needed comfort, but she was not forthcoming about her extramarital affairs. And I think it's the precarious situation that Bob put her in, which is I'm not divorcing you and I'm not being with you either. It's precarious. All right, we have someone who wants to come up to the mic. I pray that we have a good exchange. Welcome to the conversation. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. What's frozen? For some reason, the camera is freezing up.
Okay. I was talking about the last live show. Someone said, "What about epigenetics and how does stuff fall into how to like you always bring out like how things are like a cycle, all right?"
Mm-hmm.
And so I text you. I said, "Okay, I'll give a little science behind what epigenetics is."
Oh,
So just
yes,
imagine
yes,
like
yes.
when your grandmother was pregnant.
Okay, come on.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I'll just give a simple example. When you're okay, so like when I'll use myself, when my grandmother was pregnant with my mother, when my mother was only a 6-month fetus, she already had the eggs that would make
Eggs.
me. So whatever
Correct.
trauma my grandmother went through, it already imprinted my DNA.
Correct.
So that's why some things just pop up in our lives. And sometimes some indigenous people say that we have to carry out some of the work of our ancestors.
True.
And so, yeah, I was agreeing with you, like, yeah, things come up as a cycle. And that was all.
Oh, thank you so much. And you reminded me. Anything else you want to say? Because that is something that we don't realize, that we were kind of in a certain form, like you said, in our grandmother's womb then, because we are already in egg form in our mother's womb, in our grandmother's womb, right? So she could have been going through something and we weren't there physically, but we're there.
Right,
right.
right. I mean, like you hear stories about people afraid of dogs, but they never been bit by dogs. But if their grandmother or their grandfather too was in the 60s and the police had dogs on them, they have this fear. They already show that it happens with mice. Mice just act certain way and they may not even been in the situation. So yeah. But I totally agree. There's no trauma bonding and thing and all that. That whole thing with Cindy, I think that was just like a publicity thing. She's the only girlfriend that keep on popping up.
40 years later. It's true.
He had a girlfriend in Africa too. So they were really after him.
Yeah, she did. He did. Yeah. And she was in Germany, according to the recounts. She was the girlfriend from Africa came to Germany on his sickbed. So Cindy wasn't the only person who was there.
Yeah. So that's still like a publicity thing. I don't know
I think so.
what to call it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
I love your show. I appreciate you, sis.
Thank you. I appreciate you as well.
Okay, take care.
All right. So yeah, again, look that up, you guys. That definitely is something that is. There's a book. I'm gonna give you a two book read, and then I go boogie. There's a book I have called. There's one book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. This is by Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you Google him, you can't see. If you Google him on YouTube, he's a neuroscience on YouTube. This book is really good, right? It's going to tell you about epigenetics. It's going to tell you about neuroscience. If you're into this kind of stuff, which I am, this is one of them. The next book is another book called It Didn't Start With You. Here it is. I'm taking y'all to my soul therapy book collection here. There's another book called It Didn't Start With You, right? How inherited family trauma shapes who we are and how to end the cycle. So even before this book, I would recommend this book. I'm gonna put the link in the description. This book right here, if you look, I got this book all marked up. Because the research is real, peoples. The research is real, okay? So this book right here, It Didn't Start With You. This is the same thing that the guest just spoke about, how something didn't happen with us and somebody had some unfinished trauma. And then we step into that unknowingly. And then we start to live out other people's life. If I tell you some of the interesting things that have happened since I've been on this journey, I don't even get surprised anymore. I don't even get it is so spiritual when you begin to walk and understand and really ask the Creator to guide you. There's so many things. I'm not talking about any extracurricular stuff. I'm just talking about stuff that will be revealed in your waking hours and you're moving through the earth. You'll begin to see that it didn't start with you. I'm gonna put the link to that book in the description, because those are two books that really helped me to put a lot of things into perspective. Right. And so it's through these lens of years of studying that I come to you with these stories and really paralleling and trying to connect the dots, not only for like Bob Marley, but for my own life and trying to help people who may be interested for their own lives as well. So with that said, sorry, you're right. It wasn't February. They were died in May. My apologies. It wasn't February. All of these people died in May. It's late, y'all. I stand corrected. It's May. So the father, the Norval, Bob, and two other people died in May. And the original Robert Bob, it's May. You're absolutely correct. My apologies. Thank you, thank you, thank you. See, that's why y'all got me on my toes. Yeah, y'all know I like to stand corrected if I misspoke. It's not February, it's May. England was encouraging whites to come to Jamaica to build up the white population. And that's what I was looking at that migration from England, because all of this stuff is, we can't just look and pluck something out. There's always something happening around the culture. So at that time in the mid 1800s, slavery is not abolished in America. But this Ellen Ann Bloomfield comes from America. She comes from America and she comes to Jamaica. I'm like, okay, what prompted that move? And what prompted Albert to come from England to America, to Jamaica? Sorry, yeah, they died in May. Thank you, everybody. I'm just seeing that. You guys are absolutely correct. Yeah, okay, somebody's saying that's something interesting in their family, that their grandfather died January 9, mom January 8, and aunt January 10. That is a cluster right there. I don't know, but it's a cluster, right? And so that cluster also exists in Bob Marley's thing. And again, it was May. It's late, y'all. It's late. It's late. All right, everybody. With that said, Stephanie's saying pain turned into cancer and stress compromise your immunity, therefore compromise. Yeah, that's absolutely facts. Stress can turn into cancer. Negative energy can turn into cancer. Negative thoughts can turn into cancer, because what is cancer, right? But there's something that his mother said that I think it is coming up in the next reading, that he may have already been predisposed. I'll put it there. He may have already been predisposed based on something that happened to him earlier. Somebody calling it gossip. How is it gossip? You coming from the people in book? Unless the people in my gossip about themselves. Yo, Rita, why you gossiping about yourself, Rita? You must behave yourself and stop gossip about yourself. All right. We have somebody said they would love to start writing their story. Again, anybody who wants to start writing a story, just get a notebook. It may be easier to type on the computer, but my experience lets me know that you get a lot of energy out actually physically writing. So if you have some purging to do, some healing to do, you might want to write physically with your hands. See, I got all these pens and pencils right next to me because it's my desk I'm at. And you might want to physically just get a notebook and start writing. See what comes out. I am glad Sadella wrote her book. I'm with you. I'm with you. The concept of lighter is better. Colonialism. Where did the concept of whiter is better come from? Colonialism. Colonialism. That's y'all let me know what is y'all. It's a phone just come on, just yeah, I think it's coming from colonialism. Blakely said all these women complaining about Bob infidelities would have done exactly the same thing with him. No, sir, we can't speak for everybody. I mean, we have some people who said they would, but sorry, everybody's not on that type of time. Everybody's not on the type of time. Like, you're gonna sign up to be a baby mother on purpose? Everybody not on that type of time. Miss Thomas says colorism is strong here in Trinidad, but then again, everyone thinks that whiteness and the proximity to it gives the privileges, so they gravitate. That's a fact. That's what I was just speaking about earlier. It's whiteness and proximity to whiteness, not because white is better, but because of what it represents. As you said, privileges, access to resources. Kimani's book, I'm just going to summarize it because Kimani, the place that I feel that he wrote from was from that wounded child. So a lot of the things are cyclical in the way in which he's narrating the story. The story doesn't, like Sedella's book kind of moves through the time, but Kimani's book kind of just does like this. And so I think, to me, it would be better suited if I just basically give my summation, and then definitely it's out there if you want to get it. But essentially, yeah, I think I'm just going to give my summation on Kimani's book because, yeah. Hold on one second, everybody. So with that, Rastas are all coming for Rastas. Rastas are only blow back on the outside. Choo, when I touch that one there. Why this phone keep on just a pop on? How can we fix the idea? Boy, that thing is deeply rooted. How can you fix the idea that white is better? It's deeply rooted. It is so intricately woven into the fabric of the minds of just people across the globe. Good luck with that. I mean knowledge of self, but it also has to translate into real world things, you know, because a lot of people have tried knowledge of self. That's what Marcus Garvey was saying, right? But if it didn't fully materialize and translate into the real world things where that black had the power to do what needed to be done. So it's definitely deep. Yeah, Solomon's son was doing too much. He was in. Solomon, you guys saying Solomon had 4 children. So in all of those women, he only had 4 children. At one Bible study, I was wondering, what did Solomon do with all those children? Misuse can lead to prostate issues. So sometimes people be like, yeah, expound on the prostate. We might have to come back and expound on the prostate, but the prostate is a primary gland that's being used when the man is in the sexual act. So their overuse of this prostate gland can lead to issues, as well as whatever he's eating, whatever he's thinking, whatever he's drinking, all of these things. And so no one gets away. Basically is what I'm saying. Yeah, you have the liberty to do what you want to do, but the way the earth is set up, nobody really just like escapes. Nobody escapes. Jerry said, look, y'all. We can't let storytelling go. We need factual stories. That's what I'm committed to. Yeah, I love the jokes and all of that, but I also like to pass on information that we can also use in our own lives. Yeah, it was a good discussion. Thank you guys for tuning in. So here Hawk says, prostate is an organ of the male reproductive system, and if men have unhealthy relationships and many partners, imbalance and disease. That's a fact. So sometimes we're not discovering that, but man can do what man want to do. And then when him prostate swell up, when him have prostate cancer, most I forbid, when him also can have yeast infection. There's a lot of times that men don't know men can pass yeast infections to women, right? There's a whole lot of stuff. That's another one of my loves, y'all, is health. So I'm gonna just stay on this right now before I go down that slippery slope over there. Talking about how Mona know all of this about prostate issues. Yeah. Now try to get to the bottom of this thing, yeah, sir. So they say, Mona just skip all of the thing them. He was reading palms at a young age. Yeah, I know he was reading palms, but remember his mother said that she had a vision and that the spirit told her that don't worry, he's protected. So I'm wondering, was his grandmother around him? Because old time people say when some ancestor that just passes too close, they can affect the child. My grandmother told me that a long time ago, but old time people, right? So was it his grandmother around it? Who was around him when, if we're gonna go with Sedella's account, when she fed him the porridge and went to go get the food and come back. You know what I mean? What evil spirit, according to Omariah, was troubling him? Blakely got the women talking about. Yes, palm reading is considered witchcraft. This is what Kim is saying. That's why I'm asking, of what energy was he reading these palms? Like, where was he getting this information from? Lines change every day. I don't know. I'm just asking, where did he get that from? I don't know where he get. Insert sarcasm here. All right, everybody. I don't know why they're lambasting Rita. Well, because Rita, the woman, cannot cheat or have extramarital affairs, but the man can. That's what Bob said in his interview. So Rita should have stayed chaste, and whatever happened to her, she just take that. And then Bob just do him one do. That's like, it's a man's world. Didn't you hear? James Brown said it. It's a man's world. All right, everybody. If you don't want video tomorrow, I forgot my bed today. Yeah, it shall go on and on. The fool has never been told. I'm living while I'm living, to the Father I will pray. Winter says she don't believe in past and traumas and spiritual things. No, it's a real thing. And we don't have to believe in it, you know. We don't have to believe. But it's a real thing. It is definitely a real thing. It is definitely a real thing. I could testify. Can we get a testimony? It's real. It is real. They said believe, kill, and believe, cure, but no, it's real. He may have called himself a Duppy conqueror after that Duppy attacked him and Rita over there at Cox and Dodd studio. It's a possibility. I don't know. But with that said, no, man, it's a real thing. This is the book. I'm gonna drop the link for you guys in the description below. It didn't start with you. And this is not no just jokey book. This is somebody who had a practice for many years and he observed certain things. Now, all of it, I can't co-sign everything in that book. I can't co-sign, and I tell nobody to jump down no rabbit hole. But he's basically going over some DNA epigenetic conversations. Yes, listen, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and say good night right now. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Oh man, I didn't even get up. I was all into it. I'm just gonna boogie out on this one, peoples. When I went to 9 Mile for the tour guide at Bob Marley's birthplace, ignored all my questions about Rita. But not laugh. For those who just joined us, I'm also an author. My debut novel, Island Twist, is now available on Amazon. Shout out to everybody who's already purchased the book. I think it's funny. It's funny. It's filled with a whole lot of things. It's not only just funny, but it has storylines. It is following the life of a recent immigrant family to New York City. They interface with other immigrants that are new to the place, and through that they kind of, again, the same thing. They inherit certain traumas and they navigate through certain things to try to stay afloat in their new community, right, in America. That is not, everything is not glittering as they were promised, right? And so it follows the life of character Jackie Brown, and I definitely think I like it, and I hope you guys will like it too. So I look forward to your feedback on that. I'm just gonna drop it in the thing. The Island book is on the way. I'm a research scientist with published articles. Well, drop your articles, Hawk77. Drop your articles, because I love research articles. Okay. So definitely, if you publish some articles, drop them in the box. I will share them, because this is the type of stuff that we need in our arsenal as we continue to move through, right, and learn new things. So I'll come back and talk more about spirituality at a next time. I've been talking about it here and there, but we'll do more of that as well. So with that, I'll just play this, and everybody have a blessed night. Real quick, this is Amuna, author and storyteller, and I have a new release available on Amazon because I love writing and reading stories. This is a Caribbean American tale about love and culture. We have a young girl named Jackie, and she gets into it with a lot of frenemies and some other people that's trying to take away our rights. So go ahead and check out Island Twist, available on Amazon today. Now let's get back to the story.